gonna steal all side, ride me, baby. I ain't never gonna stop. Come on now, baby. Ride me straight to the top. Yeah, straight to the top.
Number 27, bad ideas, good stories. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Pop.
Apple fritter.
Apple fritter.
Maybe I ate one. Big whoop. Yep.
Yes, yes.
A really tasty apple fritter, though.
It's been a couple weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm Dusty, and you were Pat.
Yes, I am, Pat.
This is Fritter Talk.
Fritter Talk with Dusty and Pat.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah, I think I took a little bit of a breather. I'm going to slow down our production schedule so I have enough time to do some editing and, we can have enough experiences between these podcasts that we have something new to talk about.
Yep, actually have a conversation's worth of shit going on. I'm going to stretch it out a bit here in this plague. Well, yeah, man. Like, I've pretty much gone to lockdown mode of myself anyways. Like, even the stuff you can go out and do, I'm just like, I don't really want to.
Well, I bought Cyberpunk 2077. I was like, yeah. And that'll take care of most of the winter, I think, for me. My girlfriend's not liking it. But, yeah, I'm a very, very interesting and nuanced life online or in the video game world. It's a very interesting one.
Lean into the fucking video games. I'm excited about that.
It's really adult. It's a lot of adult content, high gore content, hypersexuality. There's like ads on like the walls with like 3-mouthed prostitutes and things like that you can rent out in like porn rooms and all kinds of crazy shit. It's definitely not for children.
Adding extra mouths. I never thought about that.
Yeah. Orifices. But yeah, it's definitely not for children. And I've been seeing a lot of people online doing the what about the kids thing. And it really, yeah. What about the kids? What if my kid plays this game? Well, what if you let your kid on the internet? What if you let your kid on the internet? Mom, can I go on the internet? Dad, can I go on the internet? Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't need to know where you're going or what site you're on or what you're doing. Just go on the internet. So I think that, I don't know. Remember GTA? You could pick up prostitutes. You have sex with them under like bridges and stuff, and then you can take your money back violently. Yeah, I remember hearing
running
people,
them over.
Yeah, beating them up, whatever. I remember people getting mad about their children. Like, what's with this game? Yeah. Well, what's with you not checking out what the games are that you're giving your kids, right? That's my concern.
And you also don't have to do any of that. You don't have to pick up prostitutes. You don't have to run them over afterwards either to steal your money back.
In GTA, you did. It was part of the storyline.
Was there a storyline?
You had to go to a strip club. You had to feel up a stripper and try and get her to go home with you. That was part of one of the arcs. It's definitely, they're not for kids.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
This isn't like Bubble Burster or whatever.
Candy
Mario
Crush.
Kart. Yeah, Candy Crush.
Yeah.
Mario Kart. It's not that. It's not Legend of Zelda. It's prostitutes and murder. That's like what these games are. So yeah.
And you make yourself into some sort of cybernetic future man.
Yeah. Well, okay. The story of Cyberpunk 2077 is that it is obviously 2077. There's five major corporations that run pretty much. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be America, but like the area that you're in, 5 major, huge corporations, and they're the upper echelon, and everybody else is basically poor, struggling to make ends meet. It reminds me a lot of the Netflix series Altered Carbon. Have you seen that?
I have.
Very similar. You got
greatly enjoyed Altered Carbon.
Yeah. You got the rich, and then you got the lower echelon, and you can upgrade yourself with all like this firmware and like cybernetic stuff to enhance yourself, and you basically can choose whatever role you want, whether you're a criminal, and you're trying to navigate this world, and highly customable to the degree. I haven't done it. I don't know if you've played. Apparently, you can adjust the size of your penis in the editing.
As you should. This is what we all wanted.
Yes, but people are making their penises too large, and they don't properly fit inside the clothing, so they're walking around with their dinks hanging outside of their outfits. It's a glitch that... Yeah.
Welcome to my world.
Story of my life. It's actually the opposite. I go to the bathroom there.
Yeah. I'm constantly got
what's happening there?
Squirrels chasing me around going, let me at that acorn.
Looks like a peanut jumping out of a bush there.
I'll leave those dirty old walnuts.
But yeah, it's kind of glitchy, but it's a pretty fun game, and it's really, really interesting so far. Exactly, it's only been out 3 days, and I've probably logged way too many hours so far, much to the chagrin of the partner upstairs. But it's fun. It's really good. It's once they iron out the glitches, because there's lots of crashes and I don't know. Sometimes this guy tried to take a chip out of his head, but he didn't take the gun out of his hand, so his gun went right through his head and it was sticking out the other side. And then he took the gun and put it in my head, you know, instead of the chip that was supposed to go in my head. There's little glitches like that, which were kind of funny, but I'm like, yeah. Or you put on a ball cap and half your hair is out the ball cap, but the other half is weird, weird stuff. I love it.
Sounds awesome.
But that's what I'm going to be doing with my downtime if they lock us down.
Did we talk about this in the last one about if we would get robot parts?
No, we haven't.
I thought we were talking about that one time.
This game is convincing me.
You're on board now with robot parts?
It depends. If I'm getting a vaccine, I might as well jump into it all, right?
In for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah.
Right? You know,
Well,
it depends on
a
what.
needle. It might as well be into a robot arm.
What I really like about this game is it's kind of like it puts the scenario out there. What would you do to augment yourself? To make yourself, if the technology is available to you, what stuff would you take? Right? You've seen the documentary Transcendent Man, Ray Kurzweil, the artificial intelligence documentary, Kurzweil synthesizers. It's mostly about him.
I feel like I have, because I know Ray Kurzweil, and I know I've watched stuff about him. I just can't picture that documentary.
Well, the documentary is called Transcendent Man, and his goal is to take, I think he takes something like 100 supplements a day, just to try and elongate his life for as long as he can, because he thinks he's going to be in a position to upgrade himself with artificial intelligence, or upgrade his consciousness with artificial intelligence. And now with Elon Musk's Neuralink, that's seeming more and more likely. Like, they're already doing experiential or full-on functional implants of the Neuralink in pigs, the Elon Musk's company. So they can measure the neural synapses that are firing in order for a pig to smell something. And it gets registered on a computer. And then they can actually alter what those synapses, once they register which does which, they could press buttons and trigger different synapses. So it'll be smelling roses, I guess, out of nothing, because they just trigger the synapses in the brain, right? So
Programmable pigs,
programmable mind. And if it's working with pigs, they want to start putting it in people, right? Like, this is the animal testing aspect of experimenting with this stuff, right? Rolling out a new technology. Sort of like when they said the vaccine was going to take 18 months, right? A friend of mine, a client, he worked in a lab and he actually helped develop vaccines. And he said he wasn't sure. And I asked him, like, why has it only been 8 months or 10 months, right? And now they've got this vaccine that they said would take 8 months. And he's like, well, they probably fast-tracked it because of the necessity, which could mean they just skipped the animal testing part and went straight to human testing. Because there's probably people in need.
Well, and I was just listening to a thing about the human testing group. Even they didn't have any pregnant women in it at all.
That's probably
so they don't know how it's going to react. So they can't really say what to tell them.
Make thalidomide babies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it'll be the
so and that's the one group for sure they know was excluded. So I'm not sure if anybody else was like under or misrepresented that's going to possibly have issues with it. But I don't know. We'll find out.
Well,
we're gonna see.
Well, as far as like augmenting ourselves, upgrading ourselves artificially, if I had a choice, what would I do, right? I don't know. Super eyes, super legs. In the Transcendent Man, they talked about if they can create, and I think they're trying to create, artificial red blood cells. And they said something like, if you can replace 10% of your naturally occurring red blood cells with artificial ones, you should be able to sprint at full speed for 15 minutes without losing breath, right? Because the circulation will be that much more efficient. Hold your breath underwater for like 8 minutes because artificial technology is that much more efficient than organic technology. It's kind of comparing the fastest air flying animal to the fastest man-made technology, right? You know, a stealth bomber versus a hawk. You know, like a hawk's pretty fucking fast. It's nothing compared to a bomber. Same thing with a cheetah versus a Ferrari. So if people start, you know, simple shit, like, and that's just red blood cells. It carries oxygen to different parts of the body, right? You can hold your breath. You could sprint outright. That's just red blood cells. what if they started doing all the other stuff, like artificial antibodies that can put together any decaying organic material inside you? Wouldn't that also, hey, you never grow old because these antibodies are continually repairing you. You're just naturally reoccurring. So what the future holds is very, very interesting.
And I think even stuff like that is like, because they say like lots of your aging is losing elasticity in joints, ligaments, skin cells, whatever it is, you lose that elasticity in it. So if you could change that, so you just don't, you keep making collagen or whatever it is that keeps it firm and young, then it's
microorganism robots injecting lubricant where it needs, repairing stretchy elastic kind of like tendons, like just get in there and fix it, and it's programmed by a little chip in your brain. Oh, I'm feeling some pain here. They all go off to that area. Let's check out what's wrong here. That would be crazy. And my theory when it comes to this new technology, and it's kind of, they have it in this game, is only the rich will be able to afford that. It's not going to be like the black market guys. Like they're in this game, they got what's called ripper docs, like underground. We've talked about it before. Like who's going to be the underground guys that put in that artificial tech? And it's in this game. It's like they're called ripper docs. But the people at the upper echelons would have real facilities dedicated to this like high end stuff versus the grimy underground kind of like ripper doc. And there's a couple books about this, that the one guy, I forget his name, Homo Deus is the name of the book. He has the theory that only the upper echelon, like these billionaire people, are going to be able to afford this technology when it comes out, to back up their consciousness to artificial intelligence, to put artificial red blood cells in their system.
Well, you know what? And even if it is super inexpensive to do, they'll maintain control over it, right? Because how else do you keep everybody else in line and feed whatever your machine is that you're trying to feed? Because if we can all just as easily get robot legs and arms and
then everybody's
fly,
on equal footing.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have to have some control over it.
When the billionaires become the superhumans. Or gods amongst men. Like, imagine, we've had the talk about artificial intelligence, and for those people that aren't familiar with the where the artificial intelligence is going, I guess there's different levels of artificial intelligence. There's like rudimentary artificial intelligence, which is like you deal with in your video games or at work, where it's like, oh, I'm doing a job and da-da-da-da-da. Then they're struggling to get AGI, artificial general intelligence, where a computer autonomously on its own will have the same functional abilities as a monkey, right? It can problem solve, it can make decisions, but it's going to be an instant between when that artificial general intelligence starts self-educating and becomes smarter than the smartest human. And then it becomes an artificial superintelligence, an ASI. And the artificial superintelligence, once it becomes self-aware and starts teaching itself, if it gets access to the internet, all of humanity's information technology is going to be its memory banks. So anything it needs to know, it's going to be immediately able to access and to analyze, read super fast, digest that information, and regurgitate it back. Any book, essay, just immediately it's going to understand it and be able to retrieve information from it. It's going to be so much smarter than the smartest person. And there's a lot of scientists right now, Kurzweiler being one of them, that thinks that, oh, I'm going to get ahead of the curve. I'm going to upgrade myself to be connected to beat it to the punch. So I'm going to have that access to that computing ability. Musk is another guy who's like, I'm going to have access to this computing ability with Neuralink. I'm going to put it in and I'm going to have a computer mind. But I don't necessarily think it's going to work that way, If an artificial intelligence, it's going to be smart enough to not let the monkeys run the show anymore. That's my theory.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it depends on what it needs to exist. Right? I don't know. Weird times, right? What a weird time, man. During the plague, we have to sit and talk about, like, possibly being able to download our fucking consciousness into a computer.
Oh, Musk, in his Rogan podcast, he's like, we're doing it every day. Every time we put our pictures on here, every time we type something or email something on our phones, we're uploading information to the cerebral cortex of the emerging artificial intelligence, the cyber god that's going to be coming, right? And as soon as an artificial superintelligence whose computing power is the difference between our smartphone and a dust mite is it's going to be ridiculous. We won't even recognize it, and it'll be able to anticipate and solve any issue that we have like that. We're basically giving birth to an artificial god, right? By an intelligence.
It'd be funny is like every solution was just like, we'll just kill them. Like, well, no, I don't know.
That kind
Can we
of
just
God?
figure out? No, we just scrub it out. Whatever the problem is, just kill the whole thing, burn it down. Well, no, like we can probably fix. No, you don't fix anything. You just destroy it all, start over again.
It's more efficient.
Yeah.
It's a failed experiment.
Yeah.
Time to shut it down.
This will taint the future ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't taint the future ones. Yeah.
You smoked a joint before you got here, didn't
One? Yes.
you? One to the X of power.
Yeah.
All right. So, am I supposed to carry this one?
I don't know. What do you want to talk about, buddy boy?
All right. Pissing off 1950s white men. I saw
Oh.
this thing that's like, live your life in order to piss off a 1950s white man. You know, if you're not pissing off the 1950s white man, are you really living a life that's worth living? And on a similar one, it's like, if you aren't living a life that would have you killed by the church in the Middle Ages, are you really living your life? So I kind of wonder about that. I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
Making more allies with animals.
Yeah.
That'd probably get you
With gay folks,
all burnt at the
people
stake.
of
right?
color.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What else would get you bludgeoned by a church back then?
Questioning.
Questioning of any sort.
Yeah.
Reading. I feel like that's probably an issue.
Reading.
Understanding in general.
The work of the devil here.
Yeah.
We found a book.
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
Burn them. That's the other one. That's their philosophy. Just burn them. Fuck.
Burn them.
Who gives a shit? Did he float? Who cares?
Oh yeah, what was
Burn
that?
'em
The
anyways.
witch hunts, the dunking, right? They toss them in a river, and if they floated, they were a witch and needed to be killed. And if they sunk, they were innocent, and at least they're in heaven.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they died.
You don't want to
died
be
a clean
accused of being
soul.
a witch.
I don't think so. No.
No, it doesn't sound like a good time.
Not then.
No, now it's the trending. It's a
I
trend.
guess now. Yeah. Right. Nobody's saying it negatively anymore.
It's a big movement, actually. Young people, like kids' clothing stores, or like Sephora and Claire's, they got like mini witch kits. Legitimately, where you've got your little ritual. They have smudge in there. They've got all kinds of like incenses and like ritual stuff that they sell to kids if you want to be a witch at home.
Hey, this is what the Christian, right? Was like the whole
They're
time.
bugging out.
They're like, the goddamn Satanists are coming into the malls.
Well, it's weird,
Yeah.
right? Because like, yeah, I'm buddies with a lot of like self-described Satanists, like the Satanic Temple, right? Are you familiar with them?
I'm not, but I know
Oh.
it exists.
Okay, the Satanic Temple is more or less a troll group. Like they're pretty funny, actually. It's lots of comedy, but it started off where the Westboro Baptist Church, you know, the guy who has the signs that said God hates fags, and they'd be protesting soldiers. So that guy, they went to his mother's grave and they did what they called the Pink Mass, where the leader, whose name's Lucian Graves, performed this mass and had lesbians making love on top of his mother's grave in order to make her gay in the afterlife. That was the and then
That'll
he
do it.
and he teabagged her gravestone as part of the ritual, and it was like they put out a news release. We did this pink mass, and in order to make his mother dead in the gay in the afterlife. Fucking hilarious. And they had a couple other ones like that. There was
That's really funny.
a guy named Jason Rappaport, I think is his name. He's a senator in the U.S., and he really is gung-ho on getting Christian values put into the government. Like, he wants the Ten Commandments in front of courthouses and stuff. So the Satanic Temple said, well, if you want this Christian, monument put up, and we have freedom of religion, then we want our Baphomet, our goat-headed god form, put up. And they made a big brass statue of the Baphomet and wanted to have it. They went to court over it. I want to have it right next to the Ten Commandments. And so that was an ongoing legal battle. So these guys, they basically believe that if science can't prove it, it better be able to, otherwise it's superstition. That's the major tenet of what they believe. And we have the right to, love who we want to love, do what we want to do, express ourselves however we want to express ourselves, as long as you're not hurting anybody, right? That kind of, it's basically kind of like a social justice atheist movement, right? That's what the Satanic Temple is, dressed in black with pentagrams and upside down crosses and spookiness. But the interesting thing is this, the fundamental Christian right for years has been going off about the invasion of satanic values to corrode family, to corrode the way that the biological sex, and to corrode families like the nuclear family, man, woman, children, to corrode values and gender. And then all of a sudden comes along this pretty ethical group that's like, yeah, we don't believe in God. We believe in science. We believe in gay rights. We believe in trans rights. We believe in, equal social justice for everybody. Yeah, that's us. So it's almost like the religious right were actually right. That there is an organization coming up. And like, that's just it. They encourage kids to get involved with like ritual and ceremony and witchcraft. And my daughter, she's like, I'm a witch now. I'm a queer witch. And I'm like, fucking hey, good for you, man. Find your path and do your path. But that still is exactly what the Christian right we're freaking out about. It's the end times. It's a Christian spiritual battle.
Oh, during the plague, we're hearing about it being the end times.
End times during the plague.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence,
Well, how quickly do you think that we can get these upgrades? Because if it's end times, I'm going to need them robot legs and arms before I got to get it done out like an old fucking grain bin.
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend had a great point. She's like, so all these people want artificial intelligence and want to escape death. Death is part of life for everything. And to fear death is to fear life. You live your life in fear of the inevitable. Why not just accept it as part of life? Just like birth was part of life, death is part of life. But everybody, who wants to live forever?
Sure.
Is life that great? How do you?
I'm just trying to have a better existence during that
While
length
you're here?
of life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm picturing if I don't get those like robot arms and legs, and there's other people that do, then I'm some sort of like
Monkey man?
slop sow. Maybe they call me. I don't know what it would,
Slop sow.
what it would be exactly, but it would not be a great existence. Yeah, a lot of wallowing.
Well, I think it is what it is. I think that's inevitable. That
The inevitable wallowing of being a slop sow.
Yep.
If
Yep.
I can get my goddamn robot legs, I'm getting out of there.
Well, it's sort of like me saying if I could have.
I'm out.
Boing,
Exactly.
boing. Well, if I could have a yacht in like the Mediterranean, in Ibiza, cruising around, I wouldn't be stuck in Saskatchewan in
Less
the winter.
chance of being a slop sow.
I am a slop sow here every winter, sitting here.
Yeah.
Fuck, I got a truck that's breaking down. I wish I was in Ibiza on a yacht. It's not going to happen.
Or anywhere else.
Some people can
honestly.
afford the robot legs, or the jet ski feet and all that stuff. Right?
I didn't even think that was an option.
Oh,
Jet
who
ski
knows?
feet.
You got to check out Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Options are crazy.
That's
you know?
funny. Yeah. Okay.
As a hypothetical, like this could be a thing. Altering your eyes to have digital readouts. You could scan people and you do facial recognition immediately, and it runs against the police records. Does this person have you don't have access to that police record, or what is this person like? What gang affiliation? You immediately do it all with your optics, because you can upgrade your optics. All of this stuff is a potential in the future, right? And but
I feel like I have that already kind of built in, where I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yeah. I was thinking that
too.
too.
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah, I was thinking
When
that
you
too.
parked, you're a moron.
You smell bad.
Yeah, I can tell from here.
My brain has been going through and analyzing
Yeah.
all this information,
Paint a
and I came to
picture.
the conclusion that
Yeah. Prescription pants.
prescription pants.
Yeah, just picture somebody who has to wear prescription pants.
Yeah, it's the Chuck Norris pants.
Those action jeans, yeah.
The action jeans.
Yeah, with the elastic gusset.
Yes, so you can stretch to kick higher. Was it only elastic in there, or were the whole things elastic?
Oh, shit. Who knows?
And they were boot cut, so you could get your cowboy kick on.
Why else would you have them?
Yes.
You didn't own cowboy boots. I don't think you were allowed to wear those.
Well, you weren't allowed to kick, that's for sure. Bell bottoms.
You weren't allowed to kick. That's for sure. Yeah.
You have anything written down?
Not at all.
Oh, you fucker.
We could talk snowboarding stuff that I didn't get to do.
Well, you said that
Picked up some new gear, so I was real excited.
the hills
but-
aren't open yet.
Well, any place I've been checking up on, it's been kind of a slow start because they've been not knowing what regulations were going to be, and then a lot of the regulations were kind of like tied to like where they can serve food and shit like that. And
Oh,
for a
with
lot of
COVID?
them,
Okay, yeah.
that's a big deal. Like if the restaurants can't make any money, tough for the hill to make any money. But anyways, I think they're kind of figuring out, and hopefully soon they'll be firing up here in the province and get up and slide around.
Well, I got a buddy who says he's going to Lake Louise on Tuesday. So
Really? Oh, well, maybe out there, because I know some of the bigger places. Again, it was different rules for the big guys than the little guys. Like in the province here, I think they had the limit set at 150 no matter what the facility was. And like Little Red and PA, like they were saying, like if they sell 30 or 40 lift passes in a day, that's a good day. So they don't need 150.
Yeah.
Whereas a place like Wapiti would need, or Table Mountain, like 150 would barely keep their doors open when they're, if they're only open 2 or 3 days a week. So they should be able to adjust that if they're going to do it at all. But I mean, also, any place that does that, you got to have bathrooms and stuff like that. And so those are all places where people are going to get together and maybe end up giving each other COVID. So,
Yeah.
I might just have to skip this winter for...
But bars and nightclubs are still good.
Right? Yeah.
Casinos?
Right.
Casinos are cool.
Yeah, like at least on a ski hill you're outside, but you still got to congregate at some spots. There's always choke points on a ski hill, like
Yeah, Costco's
lift
cool,
lines.
though.
And I know, I totally agree. If I was making the rules, I'd be like, yeah, no, fuck, let the ski hills just be wide open and tell everybody to stay outside as much as you can.
Well, that's kind
Treat
of
it like
it.
it was a trip to the park when you were a kid. You didn't plan to go in and warm up. You dressed for it, and
Well,
if there's a place to take a piss, you use that.
If I can go to Walmart or Best Buy or Costco and get Christmas shopping on, and I'm congested in lines for the checkouts,
And you're probably touching all sorts of stuff.
yes,
Knowing
I don't
see
think that ski hills would be the biggest concern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're in a personal service. I just got the text before we started that the new rules coming up are we have to shut down our capacity for our tattoo shop, and same thing with hair salons and nail salons or any other personal service, to 50% capacity. In order to, we could still make a living, but we need to shut it down to 50% capacity. Lucky for us, we're already operating at 50% capacity. I tattoo alone at night, and we only have half the people tattooing during the days as we normally do, because we wanted to be above and beyond what was the standard or what was allowable. But does Costco have to be it? I wonder about these big box stores. Like, where the fuck do you draw the line? Or casinos?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, are
like,
they going to give up half of their customer
the revenue?
potential customers?
Yeah,
in a
or is
day?
it just us?
Yeah.
You know, not for them, just for us.
Well, and the nice thing for you guys though is like you said, you can kind of
Make
manage
our own
it.
shifts,
You can move
yeah.
stuff around and have people work evenings
Yep.
because of what you do. Also,
Yeah, we have access. I had a buddy who ran a knife store in town, and he sat me down one time, and he kind of set me straight. He's like, "Look, Pat, you're paying rent on a place 24 hours a day. Why aren't you utilizing it as much as you can for those 24 hours?"
True that.
And I'm like, holy shit. He's like, you could have 3 different shifts. You can have an early morning shift, a medium shift, and a late night shift if you want. Like,
Yeah.
these are options, you know?
well, and dealing with artists, you know
Yeah.
what I mean. Having options like that.
Yes.
Some people are like, no, I don't get up before 5 o'clock in the fucking afternoon.
Well, yeah, I'm
Our,
not
our
that
guitar
guy.
player Russell. I'm looking at Russell. It's Russell's day today. No, Rollis. Yeah, he's not really good at getting up in the daytime. So
Different personalities. Lots of
Yeah.
people should be working shift work because that's just how their body works. You know?
Man, they're shifty.
I stay up late. I stay up really late, and then I sleep in slightly late. I'm always
Mm-hmm.
up before 10:30, but then I go to work at 8 p.m. till 11, 12, whenever. Come home, do some stuff around here, play some games, go to bed. You know, that's my routine. So I get to sleep in late because I work late. I did work a job. Holy fuck. I had the wonderful job of taking bundles of newspapers off a conveyor belt and loading them onto different trucks so they're out in the morning, right? And this job started at 12:30 at night and finished at 6:30 in the morning. It fucking blew. But luckily, we had official breaks, kind of like recesses and a lunch break and shit like that. But you talk about blue collar. This is my job. I take these bundles and I load them into piles.
You know what's so funny is that you said that, like, you're like, yeah, we had like these breaks like recesses, and that's so funny because that's like what a job is, right? It's coffee breaks, it's dinner breaks.
Yep.
But probably the bulk of the work you've done, that has not been
We
the
make
case.
our own time, yeah.
Myself, most work I've done has never had proper coffee breaks and,
Yep.
and shit like that.
I'm pretty sure it was
rare
union.
anomaly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think there was a union for the newspaper, but
That is like that. You were like, yeah, it was exciting. It was like we had like a recess. Oh, you mean like a state sanctioned break that you're supposed to have at a regular frequency?
well, what we experience or like at school was set up during the Industrial Revolution to train kids and indoctrinate them for the labor force, right? You go to work, you get your recess, that's your break, you get your lunch break, you get another break, then you go home. That's so you're trained from age 5 to be used to that system, and then you go out in the work world and I'm used to this now. This is my routine, as opposed to I think a changing world where you can work at a place like Google. You show up whenever, as long as your job gets done. You can stay at home as long as your job gets done. You're still getting paid. I know a lot of people that are working remotely during COVID Fuck, they're working in their pajamas. They
Yeah.
put a suit jacket on when they have to do a Zoom meeting with the boss, and all of a sudden, all right, back to pajamas, all right? Well, fuck, if the job's done, the job's done, right? Some jobs you can't, but I think time's changing.
Well, and that does work if you already have a solid base with whoever's doing it, you know, because like some people, it's like your first job, for example, and all of a sudden it's like, no, you can just be at home and do it whenever you want. You're like, yeah, I'll do that. And you're probably not going to get much done. You probably need to build on that structure first to be able to work well in that environment. You know what I mean?
Unless that is just what you're used to. You know, I
Oh,
think-
sure. Unless you've just been free forming it your whole life, I guess,
Yeah.
and
Like,
figured out how to make stuff work.
what about these kids that are coming up with the homeschooling and like, you know, as long as your work's done, you got 2 Zoom calls a day with your teachers. This is what you need to do. Go do it. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll check up on it.
Yep.
So then that could very likely be the new model for work.
Yeah.
You know, you have your
Fuck
conferences.
the commute.
Yeah, fuck the commute. You just work out of your apartment.
Yeah.
I have a friend.
Virtually.
Her name is Noriko. She moved here from Japan. She still does her work in Japan, and she pays her rent, I think, through e-transfer. So she does her remote work for her job in Japan, living in Canada. She gets paid from Japan, direct deposited into her account, and then her e-transfer to her landlord for her rent. So she's legitimately surpassing all that border shit. She works over there in Canada, which is fucking crazy. Can you
Well,
imagine?
and why can't you? If
Yeah.
you think like any video game you play online, you can get together and blow up terrorists together. You know, why can't you go through a spreadsheet or
Well-
do whatever the fuck people do when they're in a job? I guess.
See, I'm a tattoo artist,
I don't
but
know,
I
a normal job.
yeah, you can't
We're,
really.
we're piss poor examples. You're
Yeah.
like, I tattoo for a living, and I'm like, I drive around selling steak and seafood and shit out of a van.
But that
Nobody's
being-
doing that.
There's a couple things that I could hustle with, though. Like, if I wanted to take a step from just tattooing people, I could do graphic design. I could do albums. I could do T-shirts, and we do a lot of our stuff digital design now. So I could just, hey, what do you need done? Here's a couple options. You want me to do a fine copy? Cool. And I email it out, and people are stoked. And here, thank you for the check. You know, because graphic designers get paid, I think, in between 75 to 90 an hour for their graphic design time. Like, and so I've never wanted a graphic designer because I didn't want to pay that much. And I think a lot of people take tattooers for granted because you just pay for the tattoo. You don't pay for the design time, right?
Sure.
But so that's an option, is like a freelance graphic design. And then with B, my partner, doing the Reiki stuff, she's doing remote Reiki. I didn't know that was a thing. You can do it over the phone. And I really want to get into the guided meditation script, doing customized guided meditation or kind of hypnotherapy, depending on what people want worked with. So you give them a relaxation
Thicker,
script.
longer, thicker.
Yes,
longer.
exactly. I say that for a half hour. And when you have an orgasm, it's over.
Regular amount of testicles. Regular amount of testicles. You're going to have the regular amount of testicles.
Yes, but putting scripts together with the recording stuff, just like recording a podcast, you put it in a Dropbox, and then the person e-transfers you. You send them a link, and they can download that script, and they can go to sleep by listening to this script, or stop smoking, or whatever the case may be. I kind of have to follow my own advice, and and like work on that self project. I notice, I don't know if it's a season, but all my clothes are shrinking.
It's a goddamn plague, my friend.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through it. Everybody started out like 8-9 months ago being like, you know what, if we got to slow down a bit, it's all good. I'm going to work on some stuff. Even got some projects going. Hey, now we've been in it so long, it's just like, fuck, if I got another little apocalypse to happen now to kick my ass back and you're to go the right direction again?
Yeah,
Are we
I
getting
don't
too
know.
comfortable in the plague?
Well, and that's the thing. I was okay because
I'm not going to stop calling it the plague either.
the
by the
plague,
way.
yeah, plague bearers. Well, yeah, and like when you think about hypnosis and self-hacking and mind hacking, you should be able to fine-tune anything you want in your life if you fucking do it, right? You have to do it. You have to put that time down.
Well, you know what though? I think it's not just that it's just you have to put the work in and do that, but you also have to do the other positive things in your life that make that happen. Like, because if you do, I found this is for myself at least, if I'm trying to be more conscious and really fine tune stuff, if I'm also not, for a good example, eating right at the same time, I get off track. I get off track because I get the highs and lows of the sugar highs or rushes or whatever it is, and all that other bullshit that goes along with the negative aspects of eating shit, and then it gets me off track on that.
Well, any high anxiety situation, at least for me, I need what other people would call soul food. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't really get high at all. So my one kind of like comfort, indulgence, is shitty food.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So if I'm having a horrible day, I kind of want to like disappear into whatever good meal I'm eating. You know what I mean? And I use that. Well, this whole last few months has been extremely...
There's been plenty of reasons to just eat the shitty thing.
And so I
lately.
have been doing that self-care, but is it really self-care if I'm just sabotaging myself, right?
Yeah.
I think it's self-care. To the point where just the other night I caved enough that I'm like, you know what, hun? Let's have a bottle of wine together. And we literally sat in, watched a movie, and got drunk together. Me, I don't drink. This shit is stressing me out to the point where I caved that bad, where I'm like, yeah, I'll get drunk. And I'm like, I shouldn't, and that's a big one for me. And like, I balance that. Like, do I need to be as disciplined and hard on myself as I am? A night now and then where I lighten up isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But that being said, if I'm going to be the hypnotherapist guy, you'd think that my shit should be on point, right? If I can write scripts.
Well, you know what though? It's still, again, if things weren't so crazy right now, when you guys needed those little valve releases, well, you wouldn't stay in and drink a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
You might go to Pasa.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
you might go do that and go dancing or whatever.
Yeah, we
right?
wouldn't even drink when we were out and about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just that's another valve release, right? And if we had all that kind of stuff going on, then I don't know. I don't think that gets to be such an issue.
As long as it's not an issue, as long as it's not a habit.
Yeah.
But hypnotherapy, it used to be called mesmerism, and they legitimately used it before the onset of anesthesia for pain. For pain killing, right? They would talk people through the pain. And I know this because I've done it with tattooing.
Sure.
When somebody's having a real hard session, I can kind of get them to breathe. I can kind of get them to breathe through. I give them a couple little tricks to like breathe in, chill, breathe away the pain. Like when you blow out, imagine you're literally blowing the pain away. And but for proper anesthesia to the point where you can have like surgery without, or proper, I forget the right word, pain killing without anesthesia, you need to practice it. You need to be able to get to that brain wave state and to work that script over and over and over again. So when it's time to actually use it, you can just go click, click, click. These things, I'm now in that state where I'm not feeling pain. And this is legitimate. Like, it's science proven. So it's not just...
I think that's the same kind of stuff that Wim Hof taps into, just using his breathing and focused meditation.
Yes, 100%. And Wim Hof sitting in or doing ice bathing and what is it? The polar bear swimming, jumping into a freezing lake.
Polar bear.
Yeah, but that's kind of his trip. Is like mind
So
over
after the
matter.
teddy bear crawl, polar bear swim.
Crawl in there. Yeah. But that's that mind over matter to some degree, And so if I'm going to write scripts for people, maybe I should be working my own scripts, and doing that work before. Because if I could get to a point where, hey, I can go through a tattoo session with barely feeling pain because I've worked that pain management script enough. Script is just a set of guides that you follow through, it's a script. So if I can get to a point where I can go through a tattoo session with breathing through it and hardly feeling that pain, as I get older, maybe my deteriorating body, I can handle that pain a little bit better because I know how to sit down for 5 minutes and breathe through it and come out the other side, right? So I kind of think I need to work that just like anybody else. So I think one of those remote jobs could be designing scripts for people, but at the same time I need to work on my own scripts too.
Yeah, just figure out what all your problems are. Start doing them for that, and then be like, is this an issue you have?
Here, listen to what I did for myself.
Yeah. And now look at me.
As opposed to the running script that's like, quit being a fuckhead. Don't fuck around. So
Wow, yeah.
I got this like harsh script in the back of my head I need to reprogram, right?
That was not what I was picturing.
No?
Yeah, I was picturing a much more nurturing tone.
No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
my partner.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
the nurturing one. I'm
Yeah.
the Captain Discipline.
Oh,
right?
Captain Discipline.
Don't fuck around so much. Get your shit together.
Yeah. Stop touching that fucking thing. It'd do you a favor if you got cancer and it fell off. Stuff
Yes,
like that.
Exactly. Not
Yeah.
getting anywhere by playing
Yeah.
with it all the time.
Yeah. You want a better life? Go get hit by a fucking bus. Learn how to walk again, you piece of shit.
You get it. You've had
Yeah.
that script running too.
Yeah.
Or you-
Papa? Are you there?
Papa?
Is that you, Father?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we went to the dog park the other day. I put the dogs away so they weren't up here walking around licking our
Again,
faces.
I have no problem with any of that.
Yeah, I love those little buggers. So we take them, and it's the big dog park where you and I take our dogs, and these people were there, and they had a pit bull that was probably under a year old with a bigger German Shepherd, a big German Shepherd, and they're walking along, and we have a Chihuahua and a little Jack Russell Terrier for people that aren't familiar, and we're coming along, and I know that this pit bull is a young, dumb, probably male, just because he's jumping up on the German Shepherd and hanging on his neck and like doing the tug thing, and I'm like, this dog is acting like my Jack Russell Terrier, but it's like 3 times the size, 4 times the size, and it's like a big kind of like, looks like a breed aggressive dog or a dog aggressive dog. Whatever, we keep walking forward. So this dog spots our Jack Russell and makes a beeline, like full bore, like running towards him. I'm like, oh shit. So Louis turns around and just sprints the other way, and yelping starts happening. Yeah. And I tried to block this dog, and my partner, she's like, hey, can you call your dog back? And they're like, oh yeah. They're not even paying attention to the fact that my dog's scared shitless running full tilt away from this dog in a circle.
Yeah.
So finally I'm like, come here. And he comes running through, and I don't know how it all kind of settled down. I think they grabbed a hold of their dog, and they're like, oh yeah, that was kind of crazy. And I'm like, that was kind of crazy? You bring your dog to an off-leash park, and he fucking rips after another dog, not even half his size, like a tiny dog, because it's got a dog aggressive, or a prey drive, a high prey drive.
Yeah.
But you're not even paying attention. You're too busy just having they're playing. Yeah. They're not fucking playing. Or if they are, my dog's scared shitless by the game, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be too harsh of a Karen, so I'm like, well, fuck, maybe we should get going, right? So we start heading out to the outside the gate. We put our leashes on the dogs. We're walking them back, and all of a sudden this huge fucking Rottweiler comes barreling towards the Jack Russell again. Row, 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 row. And I just went on autopilot, like, fucking hey! And the dog stops, and he backs up, and then this mom comes up who can barely, she's got no leash. She's carrying a kid on a fucking sled. It's like, oh, you know, Rudy, come back, boy. And I'm like, what the fuck are these people bringing these dogs for when they like have no ability to control them, right?
Yeah.
So
hey, once again, it's the goddamn plague. Everybody's at home and they all got dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
What do we do with it? Do we take it to the park? Do we let it bite something? I don't know. Let's find out.
And so this is the deal. I told B, I'm like, what would you have done if you were here by yourself? Like, she's like, thankfully you were here. You kind of tried to stop that dog. You got the other dog off of Louis. If I was here by myself, what would I have done? I'm like, probably end up with a chew toy, you know? And this is what I don't understand. And I've got 2 different theories on dog parks, you know? And it reminds me of the S&M scene, which is kind of an interesting analogy, right? In the underground world, you've got people that want to play, and sometimes they're big and heavy players. And they're too big and heavy a player to be hanging out in just like the average scene, because they might accidentally injure somebody in the average player scene, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe they're too heavy to play there. But on the other side, you also have these really fragile players, these people that really like a feather is too much for them, you know? And I liken this to the big Dobermans and Pit Bulls and Rottweilers and the Chihuahuas and the teacups, right? Mm-hmm. They're very specialized dogs, really fragile or really bully. And I almost think that they need specialized parks for them. You know, maybe to have a dog park where if you are bigger than this, you can't get in this park, you know, or on this ride. Or if you are under this size, you shouldn't be in this park, because this is for the roughhousing big dogs, and this is for the little dogs that can't handle roughhousing with too big a dog. It's kind of fucked, because now I think the dog park, it's a bit of an off-limit zone. She's really, it scared the shit out of her.
Yeah.
She doesn't.
Well, and I think even in both those, like, if you had someone who was paying attention in either of those situations and was like not a negligent dog owner in the first place, you probably don't even have an issue. You know what I mean? Regardless of the size of the dog, if you got somebody who's actually paying attention to where their Rottweiler's running by himself, probably don't have that problem. But again, unless people are going to be more responsible, it would be nice to have a separate area for them. But when I feel about dog segregation, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't like breed-specific legislation, but you need to be aware of what your dog is.
Yeah, exactly. Like they should go. Well, no, but they're not all mean. Okay, cool, but like yours still has the capability to really not be mean and still do damage. Like,
so I've had lots of bully breeds. Like literally, I've had Rottweilers. I had a bull terrier for a while. I had 2 pit bulls. I fostered a pit bull. I'm pretty familiar with the bully breeds. That was just my personality for a long time. And that being said, I know very well, especially pit bulls, that every pit bull you meet comes from a long genetic line of winning fighting dogs, because they killed off the dogs that wouldn't fight, and they killed off the dogs that didn't win, and they killed off the dogs that like attacked people. So they were bred to be dog aggressive. Even if you've got, like, let's say 20 years, 15 years of people trying to breed them into being friendlier animals. You have the same thing as you have a retriever that chases after shit, or you have a shepherd that tries to guide people into places. You will have a dog, if given a chance to get turned on, is going to go into the fight. You know, it's going to drive into the fight. So these dogs have special needs. You know what I mean? So putting them in an environment with other dogs that are potentially sniffy or pushy or play a little rough, they're going to tear the shit out of that other dog. It's just in their brain, you know? So you got to be aware of that if you're buying a bully breed. So I had these 2 pit bulls. I take them to the dog park. They were usually pretty good, especially when they were with me. My male was really sniffy. He was kind of dommy. He wasn't aggressive, but he would rise to the occasion, right? So his nose was like right up other dogs' asses, whether they liked it or not. Like, hey, who are you? What are you? You know? And they would get pissed off.
Remember what it's like to be a dog's asshole? Now you know.
Yes. And so they would get really pissy, and occasionally one of these other dogs would take a snap at him. And he's like, oh, really? You know, and like he would just rise to the occasion. And I was told a couple times, well, one in particular, the guy's like, your dog attacked my dog. And I'm like, no, my dog sniffed your dog snapped, my dog went back, you know. But that's cool. I realized these dogs shouldn't, well, this one shouldn't be coming to the off-leash park. I'll take him for a leash, or I'll take him for a leashed walk. If I get to a big empty park, I'll take him off leash. He can run, but he's not a really socialized dog. My little female, she was chill. She didn't give a damn. Like, you know, I could care less about you. You care less about me. We're all just having a great time going for a walk. So you need to know your dogs. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could take my little dogs to the off-leash park anymore. Yeah.
Ruined the experience for you.
A little too fragile. And you've got small dogs too. And I couldn't even imagine if this happened to you or one of your dogs. Like, you know.
Oh, well, and I've had it before where like my small Chihuahua got grabbed by a Great Dane one time. And yeah, I kicked that fucking dog as hard as I've ever kicked a dog.
Broken rib kind of thing.
I couldn't. That thing was too big. It'd beat the shit out of me if it wanted to go.
Seriously?
Oh, fuck. The buddy had 2 of them, and they were 130 pounds each. Like, they were monsters. And would, like, kill coyotes and shit.
That kind of dog. Why are you at a dog park?
Well, these weren't. This was out on a farm.
Oh.
Yeah. I was, like, the closest time. Then at the park, I've only had maybe one close instance where the little one got trampled a little bit, but nothing like grabbed her or threw her around. But this one, I got a hold of her, and I was like, fuck, this might be the end.
Yeah. Well, it's not a chew toy. It's not a play toy. It's another little being. Well, it's funny because I just tattooed another client who was telling him my dog park story. He's like, well, I used to have these 2 Great Danes, and I'd take them to the dog park, but they just kept getting in fights. And, you know, I pay for people's vet bills, but, like, you can't look at it that way, you know?
Right?
It's like, oh, yeah, sure, you attacked a child. I paid for the medical. I paid for the ambulance.
Every time my kid goes to the park, he stabs somebody. Big deal.
I'm paying to get them stitched up. What's the problem? So, I'm surprised that people think about it like that way. Like, all it would take one time my dog got into it, I'd be like, okay, sorry. Hopefully you're not going to get my dog put down as being a dangerous animal. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm definitely not going to be bringing it back here. Like, every time we went, it would get into some shit. Yeah. And stop fucking going.
Yeah. Must be something wrong with this park. I don't know if it's the trees or the grass. I don't care for that fence.
This place. It makes my dog bite other dogs.
Yeah. As soon as he hits the fucking line here. As soon as I let him off.
Yeah. It's something about the leash that really makes him attack other dogs when it's off. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one, and it's kind of a weird one because my dogs are cooped up as much as I am. You know, they've got cabin fever, except they don't understand that, like, what is this on the ground? It's their first year with snow. You know, I've got a Chihuahua puppy and a Jack Russell puppy, lots of energy. Where do we go? What do we do with it? I'm going to chew up your riding gloves. I'm going to chew up your shoes. I'm going to chew up your books. I'm going to chew up everything.
That's the second time he's brought up the riding gloves.
The riding gloves. That was today. I just found out today. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Well, okay, so my riding gloves are the kind, I'm going to go off, whatever.
No, I want to hear about this. I need to know.
So they're the ones with the reinforced knuckles. Yeah. You know, they're like a decent leather. And I've had them a couple years, but I don't use them for yard work. I just use them for riding. You know, they're nice. So apparently one fell on the floor. I go to put one out. I put them on to go out today. And the fucking knuckle parts are literally inside out. And like they're sticking out of the leather and there's holes in the fucking leather. I can barely get it on and I can't close my hand because it doesn't go over my knuckles anymore. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Did my kid try and like when we were out go like boxing and hitting a wall with this? Or what's going on? It's all fucked up. And I'm like, the dog chewed the shit out of my gloves, B. And she's like, ee. And I'm like, no, it's a fucking, what do we do about this goddamn dog? And then I got to remember that it's like the equivalent of a 5-year-old child. And he's bored and he's locked up in the house, you know.
One of your gloves.
Yeah, he's just fucking, you know, bored. bored as
and
fuck.
gloves stink. Shoes stink.
And it's
right?
leather.
And if you're a dog, that's what you want to chew on, is whatever the stinky leathery thing is.
Yeah, exactly, and that makes sense. And the other element is I've got a welding glove that I roughhouse so they can chomp on me. So
I've been teasing him with gloves on the regular.
so why'd they chew the other glove?
And you know what? These ones were actually Jerky brand gloves. They're teriyaki.
They were salted
I had them
leather.
teriyaki gloves. Now that I think about it.
So yeah, I got to keep in mind they're kids. They're kids and they're bored as fuck. You know, you watch any animal that's in confinement too long and they start doing funky shit. You know, they do weird stuff. And yeah, whether it's like dolphins doing weird ass shit in Dolphinville. Oh my God, I saw this video. Yeah, this is not safe for work.
I didn't
if
agree
you're
to
at
any of
work,
this. I don't know why you just looked at me like I consented to something.
if you have children at home, turn it off.
Jesus.
So this fucking dolphin in a big, it's in an aquarium, I think, with a bunch of other fish and shit, bit the head off of an eel or something, like a longfish, and then starts fucking it. It's literally masturbating with this headless fucking fish. You could find it on Google.
And it had a little white ski mask on with glasses, hey, and the chin poking through.
Ram it down, ram it down.
Bottle of Malibu.
And people are like trying to get away from the window while
Yeah.
somebody's sitting there filming this shit because it's really happening. This
Yeah.
like in confinement,
Hey.
jail rules,
Right?
dolphin jail
Well,
rules.
Is that exactly what's happening? Like, is that something that happens in nature, or is that like, no, we're in this weird fucked up situation where you kept us, and now we don't even know how to act anymore?
Yes, so the fucked up things happen. And there's that other one where the what was it? A monkey in captivity grabbed the frog and fucked the frog's
That's
mouth.
a horrifying.
It is a horrifying. Like, can you
Yeah,
imagine?
yeah.
And that wouldn't happen in nature. These guys would probably find someone like themselves to go fucking do that to.
Yeah, well, it's tough with monkeys though, because they seem to just like they'll throw shit at anything, to fuck anything, to piss in their own mouths.
But in
you know what I mean?
nature, do they do that?
I don't know. I just you see so much of it. You got to kind of like in captivity.
In
that, like,
captivity.
I don't hang out. Yeah, I guess I don't know much going on with the wild monkeys.
I
would
don't
assume
think that
they're
shit
running wild
happens
there.
so much.
Now they're chill out there. You think they're just like, nah, we're not throwing.
Yeah, there's
shit
no
down
real
there.
reason to.
I guess
There's
yeah.
other things to throw.
Yeah,
and there's other things
If you're
to
just
fuck.
bored all the time, right? Eventually, you're gonna throw some shit at somebody.
Yeah, like
if
this
you
is
gotta
what I
run
got
from
to play with,
lions,
right?
and you got to grab a fucking snake every once in a while, or befriend a child and raise it as your own.
Yeah, Mowgli.
Yeah.
I saw this
got
other,
Mowgli somebody.
I saw this other video. It was very interesting. And this big bear, he's got this super long stick, and he's like a kung fu panda. He's like swirling it and twirling it, and they're like, "Where did you learn to do this?" Fucking boredom. That's where you learn. What do I
Yeah.
have? I have a stick. Oh, okay. And after years of being in this fucking solitary confinement, you know, it's learning to
Yeah.
be fucking Joe Ninja with the fucking one toy it has. So I think confinement is a profoundly abnormal way to keep these animals, and fucking weird shit happens.
We should start doing more of it. Is maybe what I'm
Just to
saying.
see.
Well, that bear clearly has some sort of superpower if you can kung fu a log around.
Yeah.
And that I don't know how applicable any of those dolphin skills
Stream
are.
Wu-Tang
but-
fucking kung fu movies in there all the time and just see where it rolls, you know. Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
Oh man, I had a hankering for some Jackie Chan lately.
Yeah.
Some like Rumble in the Bronx.
That's some good stuff. Yeah,
Fucking
Drunken
right.
Master. The
Yep,
old- yeah.
very excellent. Although I like the ones where it's set in like modern times.
Okay,
With
yeah.
him, you know, like where he's always like
Rumble in the
somebody's-
Bronx, yeah, I know
Yeah,
that
like
one, yeah.
they're almost all the same kind of story too. He's always just like, "Hey, I was just here, we're hanging out," and no, I guess I'm just gonna have to kung fu fight everybody. Turns out I'm a master.
See, the Chinese ones are always kind of interesting because they kind of have a fun element. of
True
it.
that. Yeah, a lot more
it-
slapstick. Too,
yeah,
right?
it's got some humor
and,
and
it's a story. It's a real storytelling thing. There's always a bigger story they're telling with the fucking. Well, you got to get the medallion with the fucking magical powers or some shit like that, you know, instead of just like, hey, I just showed up here and this gang's taking over and I got to fight back.
An interesting angle on a lot of like the Chinese made kung fu movies is if you watch in the back story, a lot of times it's like the Western imperialist corporate person that's coming to steal the local culture and sell it for profit, and like the people's champion for like the worker goes and fights off the imperialist. It's that communist approved stuff that comes out of China. It's like, yeah, you have to have the narrative, the political narrative where there's the bad corporate, like, you know, colonialist that wants to steal our culture from us. And we have to defend against it.
They're never coming in to like, no, we want to build a community with you guys and really help you out. It's like, no, we're always here to take over, take all your resources. Yeah.
Well, Ong Bak.
Yep.
That's
Love
one.
Ong Bak.
Oh fuck, it's so good. But what is it like? The fights he gets in, it's like the one Australian guy. Oh, I come to your country to fuck your women, and the guy's like, oh, and he's like, the Thai guy beats up all the like, they're like, we're stealing your culture, your Buddhism, we're selling them over here. He's like, oh,
he's cutting the heads off everything. And he fights those great big guys in that room.
Yeah,
I just like that we're talking about movies we've seen 15 years ago right
Kung
now.
Fu.
This is good. Yeah.
Well, and that's because I love martial arts movies. Ong Bak, The Raid is another one.
Yes. The first time I saw The Raid, I was like, well, this is what a fucking action movie's supposed to be.
Christ.
It was. You knew the fucking story. You didn't have to slog through a bunch of bullshit. It was tense. There was times where you're like, holy fuck. And then the fight scenes were so fucking frenetic. It was just like, when he hits that guy's head off that wall like a half a dozen times on the way down, I was like, yes, why have I never seen someone do that in a movie?
Well, I think that's it might be Cali, the martial art Cali. There's some Muay Thai in there, plus tactical shit, right? Like fucking straight up guns and knives and the whole nine. And what's the premise? There's a drug lord in an apartment, and they have to go arrest the drug lord. And so the drug lord tells everybody in the apartment complex that he's going to make them rich if they kill the police coming.
Yeah.
So everybody fights the police while they try to get to
Gangsters,
the drug lord.
real mercenary types, and just regular old Joe Blows who
It's an
got
insane
a
show.
Fucking kitchen knife.
And is it Indonesian or Thai?
I'm gonna look like an asshole now.
A lot of people don't pay attention to those
I
foreign
thought it was
movies.
Thai.
Yeah, I think it's Thai too, because there is a lot. Well, the Thai martial art, like kind of like the precursor to Muay Thai, was Krabi Kabong, and they use the knives and the swords. It's very close to the Filipino martial arts of Cali. I also am a big fan of the old samurai movies. What is it? 13 Assassins. If you've seen 13 Assassins, it's ridiculously good. It's a little bit about samurai culture as much as the fight scenes, and the fight scenes are epic, fucking radical. Nothing compared to The Raid or Ong Bak is another. Fuck, I love Ong Bak. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah.
No, I love a good samurai movie. I was trying to picture the one that I was thinking of, because when you said 13 Assassins, I was like, well, I seen one that I don't think it was 13 Assassins, or maybe it was actually, where they're gonna kill that fucking shogun or whoever he is.
Yeah, because he's an evil fuck.
After he tortured that girl and she's a stump basically.
Yep.
Okay,
That's 13 Assassins.
That's the movie I'm thinking of also. And fuck me, man. And it's like a spaghetti western almost too, like with the setting up the whole town, so you're getting it ready, so it's all like a big ambush, and you can jump through this thing, and when they're just killing everybody, and it's so like raw, like at the end, the mud and the blood and
mud and the blood and the beers.
Lots of parts flying around.
What's interesting, you mentioned the spaghetti westerns, where there was a director called Akira Kurosawa, and he did a bunch of old samurai movies, and literally he did The Seventh Samurai, which translated into all these spaghetti westerns were based off the old samurai movies.
Sure.
And so like there's a little village, and all the outlaws ride into town, and they have to call up the Ronin. Well, in the Japanese movies, they call up the Ronin masterless samurai to fight off the bandits. But this is the lone gunslinger, right? And it meshes super well. There was
all about revenging.
Yeah. Well, there was a movie. It's got Charles Bronson in it. It's like the Western. It was based off of the Seventh Samurai, and it's like there's a whole bunch of bandits, and they have to fight off these guys coming in, and like there's scenes that are scene for scene taken from the samurais. They're like this band of samurais looking for the baddest samurais they could find, so they go up to this hut, and they hear there's this Ronin out there, and he's just sitting there chopping wood, and they're like, "What style of sword do you do?" He said, "Wood chop style," And so in this Western,
it wasn't
movie,
the Dirty Dozen, was it?
Is it Red Sun?
1971, Charles Bronson.
Maybe. I think it might. What was the one you said?
What was the Dirty Dozen? Wasn't that?
It might have been. It might have been that. Maybe it wasn't
a bunch of badasses together.
Yeah, it might have been either way.
Yul
Either way.
Brynner was
So
in
they
that
go
one,
up there, and I think it is the one with Yul Brynner. So that might be. Maybe it's not the Seventh Samurai, but. So then they go and they're looking for another gunslinger, and they're like, oh, there's a guy up by the hut, and they go back, and there's I think it's Charles Bronson chopping wood, and they're like, hey, what do you do? I chop wood. It's almost scene for scene. So that those old Kurosawa movies. Also, Akira Kurosawa was a big influence on the Star Wars, where it's like the big empire versus the band of plucky resistance. Yeah. I love those old samurai. Another one is Shogun Assassin, which is also known as Lone Wolf and Cub. There's a samurai who was like the assassin for the shogun, who was set up to be killed. So he ran away with his son, and he outfits the kid's carriage with all kinds of like weaponry. Like he pulls swords out of the handles.
Yes.
He puts a mirror on his kid's head so the sun reflects into the other guy's eyes when he's looking at him and like chopping him up. Fucking great show, Shogun Assassin, and that was based off of a series. Yeah.
Yeah, not enough people wearing babies and kicking ass. Ryan Reynolds, it's definitely whatever movie he's doing next. That's what it's going to be.
Wearing a baby in
Yeah.
a backpack. Yeah. Did he get arrested for some inappropriate shit like Eddie Murphy and now has to do family movies?
Him? Oh no, that seems like something Ryan Reynolds would do. Would do like a Deadpool, but he's wearing a baby the whole time.
I could see that. Dad pool.
Yeah, there you fucking go. It was right in front of me. I knew there was a reason I was talking about this. Dad pool, exactly.
Dead baby.
Oh, Jesus Christ, Russell. Yeah, it's your birthday. You talk about whatever you want. Yeah.
So yeah, back to less entertaining, more serious shit. Thunder Bay, Ontario. Did you hear about this guy that threw a trailer hitch at a random woman? Did you hear about this?
Well, I would say it was random.
It was a racist attack.
Yeah.
And,
he didn't accidentally pick a brown person.
Yeah, what was his name? His name was Braden Bushby. He threw a trailer hitch at a native lady walking down the street minding her own fucking business named Barbara Kentner. And this is in 2017. And she died a few months later. And the fucking defense was trying to say it was her underlying health issues that killed her. It wasn't the ruptured organs that this guy fucking from ripping. And he told his buddies, I got one, after he hit her with the trailer hitch, right?
Fuck.
And they tried to say, well, he just got found guilty, I think, today of manslaughter.
Good.
So, yeah. There's a big uproar in the Indigenous community about it should be murder, a second-degree murder,
say
first degree
it's
murder.
at a minimum manslaughter. You know,
Yeah.
If you throw a big heavy piece of fucking metal like a trailer hitch out of a window and you're intending to hit somebody,
Yeah, you're not
what
doing
did
minimal.
what did you think the goal was to do?
It's not like a slap upside the back
Yeah.
of the head. You're
Yeah, right.
throwing how much would a trailer hitch weigh? 3, 4, 5 pounds?
Oh no, even more than that. I'd
Yeah?
say, yeah,
Okay, so you're throwing a chunk of metal,
Yeah.
pounds,
yeah.
out of a moving vehicle, trying to hit people with a huge chunk of metal.
Yeah.
How can that not be considered? I don't know. Well, you want to seriously damage him. So I think he got aggravated assault right off the bat, and then it got transferred into manslaughter when she died, right?
Sure.
And I think that's the legitimate one because, although, if you should know that might kill somebody, which would be second-degree murder. When you do something
Well-
that you know will kill somebody and then you kill them.
Yeah, you didn't intend to do it that day, but then you're like, no, I'm going to do this, and I know this can kill somebody. But, and the defense there would be, well, I was just trying to scare her. I didn't really think it was going to hit her. I didn't really think it was going to kill her if it did happen. And you'd go, well, you'd have to be a fucking moron to think any of those things, right? And then he would go, well, I'm the kind of person who throws a trailer hitch out of a window at people. Clearly, I'm a fucking moron. You know what I mean? So then they can you could make that argument, right? You go, well, I didn't know. I just thought maybe it'd scare. I wanted to hit the sign or whatever
he had all of that.
You're dumb enough to do that in the first place. Who knows what kind of fucking thought process you can justify?
Well, and the fact that he said, I hit one,
Oh my fuck.
I hit one, as opposed to, I hit her,
Yeah.
which is humanizing your victim.
Exactly.
You were saying one. One of
Yeah.
what?
And not, oh no, I hit someone.
Yeah, holy shit,
Yeah.
I actually hit that person
Yeah.
as opposed to scaring
Oh,
them.
fuck.
So,
Yeah, and then 2017 again, not 30 fucking years ago. and they're just sorting this out.
1967.
Yeah.
This is
This
2017
is now.
in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And so he ended up getting a manslaughter charge. I think he should have got a hate crime charge because
Absolutely.
'Cause that-
absolutely. There's I don't know, man. I think that thing doesn't fly out the window. That's not a person of color.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It didn't happen to just anybody walking down the street. You specifically chose somebody. And regardless of her economic status, like maybe she was a streetwalker, maybe she was a drug addict, maybe who knows what her situation
Maybe it
was.
could even just been a woman. He could just be a
Yes.
piece of shit fucking misogynist.
Yeah, maybe that was
And
the
that
one
was his
that he
one,
was
yes,
aiming at.
But you clearly figured there was a group that you'd wanted to target, and you finally got one of them.
Yeah, you could get away with.
That's
This is
fucked.
the other element.
Jesus.
So, I couldn't believe that. Well, I guess the defense has to defend any way they can.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah,
were saying,
right.
yeah.
Again, that's why I was devil's advocating that shit earlier. I wasn't like trying to be like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you
Well, I
could
think
say
that would be a
but-
better defense than she had underlying health problems.
Oh, yeah,
and
trying
that's
to
what
blame
killed
the
her.
victim,
Yeah,
minding your own business, walking down the fucking street.
Yeah. Your pre-existing health issues killed you.
Yeah, those are the sort of people you're supposed to protect, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay? Not blame for their fucking existence and, well, you shouldn't have had such a fucked up life in the first place.
So yeah, a white guy with very little problems in his world, well, maybe emotional problems, because if you're going to go do that, you're not a healthy individual.
Yeah.
But
Well, you weren't raised right, clearly.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
If you're out random victimizing people,
Yeah.
you're not a healthy individual. He has underlying health problems that led him to become a murderer. So
rights, yeah.
hopefully well, this is another element in some of the forums I'm in, like the Idle No More forums. These guys are like, oh shit, yeah, he got manslaughter. His real verdict's when he gets inside the pen, and people find out that he murdered a native woman just for being a native. Good luck with that. Even if you go into segregated custody, you're still going to be in there with people that
he's
hate
gonna
your
have
guts.
to lean into the white supremacist shit he thought on the outside.
You're going to have to click up real quick with your real bros,
all
right?
that stuff you thought was funny to joke about before. Well, you're going to have to make that a tattoo and wear it around now.
American History X. Yeah, you got to.
And you saw the whole movie, I hope, right, bud?
No, I just watched the first half. Then he got arrested, right?
Our hero makes his stand against society taking over
And goes to jail.
Yeah.
The end. Yeah.
Makes friends. The end.
Now, it's funny because then I read another article today that it was called Black Trans Feminist Thought Can Set Us Free. And and while I do agree with some of what it said, I'm reading this and I'm like, wow, this is very bougie. It's very lofty ideals. It's very, the BIPOC, non-binary femme writer from New York City has all the ideas on how we're going to fix society. And I wanted to ask, I'm like, well, shit, what do you do for a living? How out of touch with reality are you that you have all of these lofty ideals? And then I remembered they're a writer. That's their job. They've got a degree from
See what's going on, write about what's happening.
You've been through enough university education to get your degree. You have all the theories in the world. You go and write now for a living about what needs to change in society. What do you do for a living? How removed from reality are you? Right? And I get it that the logic is there that there is a system of white supremacy. There's a system of patriarchy. A lot of that needs to be dismantled. But I don't necessarily know if black trans feminist thought is the only way to set us free from these systems.
Well, I didn't read this article, obviously, but
I really recommend it.
Even just when you told the beginning of it, in my mind, I was like, well, that is a group that does still get maligned. Like, there's still lots of people that'll stand up for feminist rights, but don't include trans people in their thought.
Or people
if
of
they
color.
if they do include trans people, a lot of times it's not people of color that they include in their thought with that. So, of that being one of the most marginalized groups, if you can see some good in what they're doing, then that makes sense applying it to bigger matters. Then,
So it's interesting.
That's what I felt. When
Well,
you first
I agree.
said that,
I
was
agree.
That was what the angle was.
That a progressive set of values would include those individuals that happen to be black or trans or non-binary or feminist and all of that. A progressive value system would include those people. But does that mean that they need to write the narrative? Because it seems to me that there's a movement towards, if you're not listening specifically to those marginalized people and exactly what they have to say society needs to do to make their struggle easier, then you are oppressing them. And I'm not sure I believe that, because there's a lot of we're all in the same boat, not just you. And as much as we want everybody to do better, you can also struggle a little bit to fit into this society that you find yourself in, as opposed to expecting the society to bend specifically for your set of, I'm a person of color, I'm a feminist, and I'm trans. Wait, I'm non-binary, but I identify as femme. You've got the 14 labels that you have to put on yourself, and you need to respect every single one of those because these are my specific set of special issues that I have. Yeah. Society should bend for me. You know what I mean? I'm gluten intolerant. I'm allergic to peanuts. I'm a vegan, and this restaurant needs to accommodate me. Or do I just not go to the restaurant because I got many things that are fucking my issues?
I think with that, I don't agree that you're being exclusionary or whatever if you don't approach those things. But I do think that's how you get change made in the center, is by hearing what's going on in the extremes, right?
Yeah.
So
okay,
if that's the extreme of this right now, and again, I think honestly that's one of the probably most marginalized groups in North America, because a lot of times
I thought the white working class man. Wait.
I thought it was the white man who was being marginalized.
He's the victim here.
Well, just because I know, within like the black community, they say like gay and trans people a lot of times are not accepted within their own community.
Oh, hip hop and the homophobia in hip hop is ridiculous.
Right?
Let alone like,
not to say that it isn't everywhere, but I mean that's just a place where I can see that being one of the bigger hurdles to overcome. So so seeing how people in those groups could be made more comfortable and more integrated with the rest of society. Obviously, we'll probably I shouldn't say never, but we probably won't get to a point where you've got a black trans president.
I'll give it 20 years.
I mean? Exactly, right? You never know. But if you get the middle, at least hearing that, and then going, what do they need, though? Okay, I can't do all that. There's no way in my lifetime I'll get there, but I can do these 2 things or these 3 things or whatever it is. It's all steps in the right direction, right? It's tough because then it's, a lot of times people on the other side will then go, well, but you're going to erase something. If I got to learn this thing or I got to deal with this now, well, then what does it get rid of over here? And it doesn't have to. It's just more acceptance. It doesn't take the place of something else.
Well, I was like, okay, I'm talking with like one of my native buddies, and he had a good point too. He's like, sure, all of these things are fucking important. Trans rights, black rights, black, trans, femme, non-binary, femme, people of color. Yeah, they need a voice. Can we get clean water to our reserves?
Hey, well, well, that's always been my issue with like the big social issues prioritization, where it's like, and I feel from you sometimes too, where it's like, okay, this is the thing that you had to write a thesis on. Like, I get that it's an
I don't have
issue,
enough of a voice,
but
we don't have clean water here.
There's people with actual real problems in the physical world that aren't being dealt with that could use a voice for that too. Like, clearly the voice hasn't been loud enough to bring clean water to these northern communities because it hasn't fucking happened yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what changes if it's not more voices being heard.
So in like, I get it where members of the black community is like, okay, yeah, we're not being heard either. Can we work on the black thing? Or people in the gay community, like the gay men that I've known, are like, we're still getting bashed.
Well, hey, and that's part of this woke culture now too. Is a lot of the people in those groups, when they're going like, okay, well, I want to look out for black men a little more in my community, or I want to look out for gay men a little more.
Why black men?
Now you're being exclusionary, right?
Yeah.
And I just actually saw, I think Ice Cube had a bit of a backlash in the last year about that, and from what I'd heard him say, I was never like, well, it was never. It wasn't positive about Jewish people, but it was never not necessarily true that people like him had been controlled by these groups that had controlled wealth for years and shit like that.
Okay.
But it's that it gets to be like, well, no, but you're being hateful towards that group.
See, that's a tough one. Because NWA was exploited by a Jewish manager who took a lot of their money with Eazy-E, and everybody else got the bum end of the deal. Then they go to the record labels, and who's running most of those record labels? Yeah. Then he gets involved with the Nation of Islam, who are kind of anti-Semitic, subtly anti-Semitic. And so they're... Yeah, a little tiny bit. So it's a tough one where some of it comes from an experiential situation. Like, I've had a bad experience with these people and I'm voicing that bad experience.
Yeah.
But is that valid? And then there's the other side where there's an institutional prejudice, where this organization I'm part of doesn't like these fucking people, and they all have reasons. Well, how's that any different than, I had a bad experience with some black guys at the mall. So I joined up with this group, and they have a problem with black people because they have all the stats that say the crime.
Slippery slope of wokeness we're all on right now.
Yeah. So who's going to be the new victim with this stuff, right?
Give it a minute. Give it a week. Give it a month.
Yeah, I'm gung ho on everybody being in the same boat. I saw this thing. People are too busy fighting horizontally as opposed to laterally. They're fighting side to side and not up and down. And if everybody recognized if you can fight side to side, you're on the same level.
Goddamn rich.
Yeah, eat the rich.
Yeah, that's what they're doing in India.
Yeah.
They're getting ready to.
I've heard about that. Yeah,
250 million people, I believe.
General strike.
Hey,
yeah.
I don't know if there's ever been a bigger strike at one time in human history than 250 million people.
Yeah,
all fucking shut her down at once.
Well, and extreme times demand extreme measures, and there's a huge dharmic fascist movement happening in India right now, where these people are like, Hinduism is the right way, we're going to expand Hinduism, like Indian nationalism, and it's a huge thing that that they really are trying to fight off the expansion of extremism over there, right?
Well, right wing of all types, extremist groups around the world in the last 15, 20 years have all just been getting bolstered. It doesn't seem like it was in the 90s, where it seemed like, well, we're winning the Cold War, and you don't hear about these dictators and stuff just running rampant and being in the national stage. They're in the background, and they're they're running countries that aren't really having any sort of fucking say in the international community. Whereas now you've got a lot of these fucking communities that do get pull and do get say at the G20 are going like, well, fuck, is that guy a despot running this thing? Like, is that an actual dictator running this now? Like, it's kind of fuck, 'cause it's the opposite of how it's supposed to work, right? We're supposed to get more democracy. We're supposed to get more reasonable people into power, not more fucking extremists.
And I also tend to think that, like, with the age of information and access to communication, these people are realizing how much they're being fucked over. And that voice is being expressed mostly by the extremists. They're like, this system has allowed us to be slaves to these multinational corporations. What would you call it? Corporate colonialism, right? Where your nation is being exploited for the profit of a few corporations, and they're like, who's going to stop it? If we tighten our borders, if we tighten our, if ours is ours, right? Yeah. And in some ways that makes sense. I just read a statistic today that Canada has 1/5 of the world's water, 1/5 of the world's water,
that fucking H2O
in a depleting water society.
Isn't that fucked though, by the way?
That we have a depleting water? Yes, it is. It is. So what are we going to do to protect our natural resources? Or are we going to go the other way where everybody is in one boat and we all need to share our natural resources? Because one is globalism, and we recognize that we're all brothers in a common humanity. And the other is, holy fuck, we need to protect what's ours and get tighter. And that's a move towards the right. The right is like, it's ours, actually, I guess traditional right, not privatizing and exploiting right, not capitalist.
Well, which is then what comes with that, because they protect it for a bit, but it's not just to hoard the resource, it's also what wealth's attached to it.
But not when you get to the extreme right, where they start becoming anti-capitalist, but they're ultra closed borders, ultra like strong nation, that's extreme right, as opposed to corporate, capital right. But then there's the communist angle, right? But then you also have nationalists.
They can see each other. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they're extreme
like,
right.
Buddy, they're like, buddy. It's communists. They got some stuff right over there.
The only thing we disagree about is race and imperialism, right? Right?
Welcome to Christmas dinner. The only thing we disagree about is race and imperialism.
Everything else. There's something wrong with the world. The economy's fucked. People are exploiting us. We
all agree that.
Yeah. Look, can we just agree on that? And like the race and like taking over the next country for more room for our people, that's not a good thing. So Jesus. Yeah, and it's kind of a weird state when we're in, where all these other countries are kind of they're becoming more extreme. Now I look at this situation, and I guess it also is more like the extremes. There's this right-wing tattooer I follow, and he pointed out this. He's like, can you call yourself a revolutionary when every television channel seems to agree with your direction? And I'm like, well, because there was so much pro-Black Lives Matter stuff going on, and this guy's like basically a Nazi, right? And I'm looking at it, I'm like, can you call yourself a revolutionary or even a radical if you don't want society to change? If your only real revolutionary stance is to keep things the same.
Well, and like, what's he talking about too? Like, it's all over the TV, but because of all the mass protests of other people all getting involved and getting out on the streets and being pissed off about this.
Well, he's saying that his angle on this was that the media is supporting the movement towards Black Lives Matter and all of like the defund the police, and like all of that is, it's not revolutionary anymore if the media is supporting you. That was his angle.
Okay, good. Then the revolutionary portion of it's done. Then it's implementing the laws.
Yes,
and it's the policy portion of it now.
See, and I don't think you can be a revolutionary as much as these right wing idiots of the magatards or whatever the fuck you want to call them are thinking keeping things the same is a revolution. Tradition is a revolution. Yes. No, it's not.
Yeah.
This shit's been the same patriarchy for 500 years.
And what do they think a revolution looks like? Do they think there's actual like building involved in that all of a sudden it's like, well, no, we got this new building, so the revolution was done. It's paperwork. Like the American Revolution was paperwork. Like that's all it is.
Well, there's a few angles on it. Like, yeah, sure, hitting into the streets and having your voice be heard and forcing change.
Exactly.
This is a revolution. And you know what? If it's just a few some people get some rubber bullets, and all of a sudden paperwork starts getting pushed, that's a pretty gentle shift of societal
and that's
structure.
how it's worked.
Yes.
That's every forward moving from the vote to segregation, all that shit.
Stonewall, the riots for the gay
all of
rights.
that's all how it happened. People got out in the streets, showed that they were upset. Eventually, Congress people had to go, okay, we got to fucking write a bill about this.
Or we got to placate them for a while.
Yep.
This is what I see.
Yeah,
we gotta
how much control can we still maintain while giving them a little bit?
we have to pay lip service to them for enough that they feel that we give a shit, right? And so I'm of the opinion like a real revolutionary sees the problems with the world and comes up with tangible solutions to change those, or joins the causes that stand for changing those. And on that token, that black trans feminist thought I don't know if it can set us free, but it can give us a vantage point that we may not have access to.
Fucking rights.
Now,
Well, and if what we're doing ain't working, you got to try some different, right?
when I was talking to B about growing up listening to rock against communism, right-wing oi music like skinhead rock, well, the right-wing skinhead rock, and I'm like, well, a lot of it I do agree with until they start talking about race, and they talk about, so you got to know which parts you agree with and which parts you don't agree with, and it's also good to hear the voice of people that you don't agree with, to hear what their real issues are, and then you can shoot holes in the stuff that's bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's problems on the street. Yeah, there's violence on the street. Yeah, the police are power hungry, dickheads, and they serve the status quo. These are all true things. Now let's get to the real root of the issue. I don't think it's immigration. I don't think it's multiculturalism.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's like the problem they have. Well, I'm poor.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Or no future, no job
poor, I got
opportunities.
no future, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, well, who do I blame for that? Well, it's the immigrants, it's whoever.
But
It's
that guy has a job and I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he started a fucking restaurant because you wouldn't allow him in yours. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you couldn't work at the corner store.
Well, I moved to this country. You won't rent me a house. So I buy a building with my friends, and we all live in that building. And next thing you know, we start becoming property owners.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're taking over everything. Well, you
Yeah.
wouldn't rent us. You wouldn't let us be part of
and,
your society.
Why didn't you?
Yeah.
You've been here. You've been here the whole time. You're so concerned about someone taking over and buying up apartment complexes. Why the fuck aren't you doing it?
That's the thing. Like, when I hear some random fucking guy, some chuckle fuck, say, get a job, you fucking liberal, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is it you do? What have you accomplished? Really? Like, what is it you do that you're going to tell this person that they're not doing enough for this society? When Akbar was a doctor in fucking Pakistan, now he's driving a fucking Uber in Canada because he can't be the doctor in Canada that he was over there. Like, Jesus Christ. But you can operate some tongs and throw some chain, and you did that for many years, and now you're on to operating heavy duty machinery.
That's so nice.
So my client the other day, the guy who was once a lab tech working on the vaccines,
Oh, okay, yep.
okay, he realized that, like, to make real money, he had to go out to the oil sands, which is a wonderful place for somebody who's science educated, to go out there and to experience for weeks at a time the insular little group of old boys or bros that are very much into the conspiracies and the anti-science and the liberal agendas and all of this stuff, which really makes me wonder about the man camps, as they're called, right? The man camps, where for 2-3 weeks out of a month, you got a bunch of middle-aged, young to middle-aged white men, mostly, not saying that other people aren't up there, but, mostly white guys, getting together, slapping each other on the back, and just reconfirming their ignorance.
In this pod, and then they transfer to a different pod that they stay in for the week or two off, and then transfer back to that pod.
And
there's no actual getting out and seeing nothing, and
life
integration with anybody else.
And who's paying for the pod?
Well,
let's say hypothetically, you could get progressive information in there. Who's paying for the pod?
Yeah, right. They don't. The
mining company, the oil company.
People fucking running the oil sands do not want you seeing some progressive shit. About
No, they don't want
solar.
climate change information.
Yeah.
They want people to be, talking, and then they come back and they jump on Facebook and they spread this like ridiculous conspiracy videos, the MAGA stuff,
and it's always an attack on them.
Oh,
you
yeah.
want to set up some fucking windmills? You just want to take the food right out of my kid's mouth, huh?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
what the fuck are you talking? Why do you make it about you? Because again, they're fucking. It's like anybody who does that shit. You're insecure.
Well,
You're insecure about the thing.
I think for a large portion of those, it's blue collar in the way that they don't have any other skills, They went out to the first job that gave them a decent living wage. They could actually make a living, and they're afraid they're going to lose it. They're going to fight tooth and nail for that
Which makes sense.
little bit of luxury they were able to
Makes
scrape
sense.
up from the
Yeah.
bottom up, right? And
work
they don't
hard to
realize
get
if you
there.
build windmills, you'll have a job on the windmill.
Yeah, this is adjustable, right?
Yeah, you're gonna
this-
have a job.
That is not the goal of any of this, is to take anything from you. Everybody who has these plans, they also picture in these plans exactly that: people moving from these industries into other in the same thing. You're still in the energy sector. You just work with a different type of equipment.
Yes, exactly. You just transfer it
That's
up.
how I
you know?
picture it.
Well,
Like
when we talk about animal agriculture, sure, you may not be a cattle farmer anymore, but peas are going to be the next big thing. You got all this land, just change up what you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that change is awkward. Change can sometimes be uncomfortable.
yeah. Well, and people get nostalgic. They get tied to, well, I built this on 7 generations
This
of
is
doing
all
it
I
this
know how to
way.
do.
And that's disrespectful to the people who did the work. And it's like, no.
Times are changing.
You can see it like that if you want, I guess.
How many
but-
generations of patriarchy have I come from before
Yeah.
we have to listen to women's voices?
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
come on, change is just change, right? And so it's kind of a weird one with hard right. Well, not even hard right. I think it's just a naive right. Like, these people don't have a political agenda. They just got a roots like me. I've hardly got anything, and finally I have something, and you want to take it away from me. That's a very survival instinct, and these people are fucking playing on it, and they're bouncing it off of each other left and right. So this guy who's science educated, and he's out there, and he's like, so this is why I'm getting a vaccine. Oh, you fucking sheeple, don't you know about vaccines and what they do? He's like, I made them.
Oh my god!
I made
Don't you
them.
know about vaccines?
Yeah, yeah.
like polio and shit. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
Nobody
He's-
you know has had it.
I'm a little familiar from getting a degree and working in a lab for a long time, and that just wasn't paying enough for what I needed, so I had to get a job in this industry, right? Yeah, it's a tough one. He's like, I just shut my mouth, I do my thing, and like let them go off. What else can
Secretly
you
sterilize them. Just go about your day.
do? That's cool. I still like the plague cities. You go live in plague city if you don't want to get
Plague City,
a vaccine.
USA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
just like Australia.
No condoms in Plague City.
Right, you
Yeah.
can fuck
You do
the
what
man
you
camps.
want. Yeah, yeah.
go. No condoms in the man camps.
Yeah.
There you go.
We only got Head and Shoulder shampoo and no condoms.
You don't want to be the little guy out there. Strange things happens in confined spaces, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cornwall
What are we
City.
at time wise?
Hour and a half almost.
Hour and a half almost.
Holy fuck. What else we've been talking about? There's nothing else going on outside of the house, it seems like to me.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's
I
like-
just base everything on my video games and internet interactions with people.
Yeah. Well, even like fucking my interactions with people. Like I worked this Saturday, and it was just weird. Like all day, everybody I talked to, just nobody had any energy. Everybody was just down and like dead semen. I was like, it's very zombie like out here fucking today. But I don't know. Just
I'm
time
waiting
of
to
year,
see.
I guess.
Like my
Depressing.
saving grace is being able to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Because I get out there, I get to move. There's people around, there's some interaction, even though there's spaced interaction. That's my one saving grace, and it's just a matter of time before they shut that down too. So then I'm like, I go
Kind
to
of
work.
seems like it. We're not
I
getting
come
better.
home. Yeah.
There was 15 dead this weekend in,
Oh, really?
in Saskatchewan.
I didn't hear,
and
yeah.
Another 500 cases or something like that.
Yeah, this is the podcast of the end.
Holy
You're
fuck.
hearing it live here, folks.
Yeah, fine, I'm ready. I
Yeah.
keep saying that almost every podcast, though. I'm ready for the end. We get to some point, and I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for it.
Well-
Let it fucking happen. Are we here? Are we there?
There's que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. And then there's, are you familiar with the Tao Te Ching? It was written by Lao Tzu. Oh, really? Fucking one of my favorite books. It's 81 poems written by a Chinese philosopher named Lao Tzu. And the story about the guy is he was the librarian of the emperor's library, and he finally had enough, and he wanted to leave the palace. And before he left, one of the guards is like, well, you've been here my whole life. You're the librarian. You're the most educated person here. Can you write down a treatise on life before you leave? And he wrote out the Tao Te Ching. And this is 81 poems that basically, in the Chinese Taoist philosophy, encapsulate the way of the universe, because Tao is the way, Day is kind of like virtue, and Jing the book, so it's called the virtuous way, or the way of virtue. And he wrote out his theory on what the Tao is, which means the way of the universe and the way of the evolved individual. And largely it says that this grand scheme does what it does, and the best thing you can do is try to not get wrapped up and trying to swim against the current and just flow with it, and whatever will happen. You just adapt when you're going. You know, you don't try and swim against the current. You just tap it this way and go this way. You tap it that way and you go that way. And you should check it out. My favorite translation is a guy named Stephen Mitchell.
That's kind of interesting, actually, because even just thinking about like decisions at like really kind of like heavy pivotal points in your life, a lot of times it is an A or B kind of thing, like a choose your own destiny. You can deal with it this way or you can deal with it that way.
Yeah.
You can go. You can say this thing or you can say that thing. There's usually not even a third option, and you kind of got to decide for. And yeah.
And a
it's
lot of
fucking
times
say
you
that
find
'cause
yourself
that's
struggling
like picture
against the
times.
natural way things should go.
Uh-huh.
And then the theory in the Tao Te Ching is you go with the easiest, most comfortable solution, and if it's not working, it probably wasn't the right one, so you just don't go there. It's very much like row your boat gently down the stream, right? You know, you don't try and go up the waterfall. And it's interesting because it's very much that water angle comes from Taoism. Taoism is the philosophy of yin and yang and the Tai Chi. All of that comes from like there's light and there's dark. There's a bit of in each.
Balance and flow.
Yeah, so it's I think it's like maybe 3,000, 4,000 year old book, and it's 81 poems, Chinese. The best translation is one by Stephen Mitchell. I've heard that that's not a really accurate translation because there's a ton. It's classical Chinese. It's kind of like reading Shakespearean English, but the one by Stephen Mitchell's got a really nice poetry to it. You know, it's a good one. So this whole COVID crisis thing has been me. Ideally, this is how I've been trying to deal with this shit. Whatever will be, will be. If it gets worse, it gets worse. We adapt then. If it gets better, we adapt then. You know, well, you telling me I need to wear a mask? Okay, I wear a mask. I'm not going to struggle against what's actually fucking happening, because what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Like, it's only going to cause me stress.
And you can see that exactly. Like even in the people that are like, "Oh, I'm not going to, and I'm going to make a stand." Well, then it becomes a stressful thing because they have to keep defending it. They keep getting into arguments about it and go, "Well, I think you're fucking full of shit." And it gets to be, is that the easier way? Is it the easier way to constantly fight with people and go on that, or is it the easier way to do this thing? And then, I want to do my own thing and make my own choice. And okay, well, then you're going to take the not easier way.
Or go do it.
And that's going to be that's going to be your experience.
If you want to make your own choices and you don't want to adhere to any of these things, go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it and just adapt to whatever happens then.
Yeah.
How much benefit comes from screaming about it?
Well, no, I was just thinking about how many times in my life where I've definitely taken the not easier way, but a lot of times it's been more fun. I've had more of an adventure. I've had a better story, you know. So it's not said it's all wholly negative to take you should always take the easy way out. But it's
Not
like
easy
sometimes
way.
what is the exactly what is the less stressful and strenuous? What is more compliant with your fucking what's going on with you? You know, like what vibes with the situation better.
What the first book I ever read on Taoism was a book called The Tao of Pooh, like Winnie the Pooh, Pooh, and Tao, and literally he compares Winnie the Pooh to a Taoist. He's just like, honey, I like honey. Oh, ate too much honey, feeling dizzy, you know, just living its life, you know, or living his life and wandering from place to place. What day is it? Well, today is today. Oh, okay. You know, what do I got to do today?
That sounds nice.
Right? And that's kind of his model of like the great Taoist. And then actually he wrote another book called The Day, like Tao Te Ching, The Day of Piglet. Because day also means virtue of the small and the insignificant. But even though you're small and insignificant in the grand scheme of things, you're still profoundly important, right? And in that book, he compares other personality types to different characters in Winnie the Pooh. So it's a really good start one. And then I got into the Tao Te Ching after reading Tao of Pooh and The Day of Piglet. And then I'm like, well, what the fuck is this book really based on? So I read the 81 poems. It's fucking great. You should check it out sometime. I might even have an extra copy here I'll give you to go home with.
That sounds awesome.
You can get them in little tiny pocket forms that fit in your back pocket, and you just open it up, and one little poem, it's like universal life lessons. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, I like shit like that where you just like spin to it. What do I need today? That seems pretty accurate.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. It's sort of like, you know, tarot cards as a
and
zodiac.
Just kind of what you were describing too was like I was picturing some of my best days I've had, like at work or whatever. Where that's kind of how they were. Like it was, I could just be in the moment. I could just enjoy what was happening. I wasn't worried about the day after, or the day after that. But usually those are because I had done some of the work I needed to a lot of times that morning to make sure I knew kind of what my day was going to be like. I'd done a little bit of planning, a little bit of visualization, and then I could just kind of be more in the moment and enjoy it.
Yep.
Those
And
are
you
my
get the
better days.
necessary shit out of the way, and then it's just you for the rest of the day. The other day...
And usually it doesn't take long.
No,
Once you do it, you sit, it's 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yep. Well, whether it's like going to the gym early in the day with B and I, going at 9 a.m., which I hate that, but then you get there.
Which I hate.
Well, but then you get there, the place is empty. You don't have to worry about a crowded space. You get your workout done, and then you go home. You're like, well, fuck. Now what do I do for the rest of the day? You know, I got whatever else to do, right? Whether it's going to work or fucking whatever has to happen during the day.
Well, I thought I heard somebody say that one time where it was like, if you've got something that you do like as part of your routine or whatever, and it's something that's like it's your least favorite thing to do, like say it's going to the gym, for example, it's like do it first.
Yep.
Always do it first, because then it doesn't linger over you for the rest of your fucking day.
Or you spend the whole day procrastinating, thinking about when you're going to get to that thing.
Exactly. And you're putting it off, or you're dreading it, or whatever. You just rip that fucking thing off like a Band-Aid.
Like editing this podcast.
I appreciate you doing.
We're doing it every 2 weeks now.
I see you keep putting new ones up on YouTube too. I really appreciate that. That's
Yeah, we have it on
awesome.
YouTube.
They're popping up now. So
The last couple are on Vimeo. Just I haven't been able to do the screenshots and advertising on Facebook and Instagram yet, but like they're up there. They're up there.
It's a fucking plague. There's nothing going on anyways. Calm down.
Fucking
We
yeah.
got more going on.
We got plenty of time
We got
to
other
listen
stuff
to
set
us.
up, and then like even the stand up. Like I was getting kind of stoked this last week because I thought nobody was doing any, and then I was like, no, there's an open mic Saturday. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm gonna go do it. Maybe I'm gonna go do it. And then the week kind of fucking rolls around. And it gets to be Saturday, and I'm like, 15 dead. Hey, I'm like, maybe I don't need to go out this weekend. I'll just give it a couple more fucking weeks and
You should get
see how things go.
you could be the front of the seafood van comedian, and you just do like little 3-minute bits that you keep posting to a
That's
channel.
my fucking job, honestly. is
Let me
just
tell
going
you
to
something
people's-
else.
People's yards, try and make them laugh and sell some shrimp.
This is what happens when fish thaw in your
Yeah.
truck.
You ride that dog much? I get lots of that. Hey, you guys, you got a saddle for this thing, or what do you do with that? Hey, there you go. Hey, you're halfway to some steak sales right there with that laugh.
Yeah.
You give me a hearty laugh like that, I'm putting food in your mouth. You open that much. You open that wide? You open that wide? You're getting shrimp.
Yeah.
So that makes it fun.
It's always interesting. Like we were out at Duck Lake trying to find the dump, like the RN dump.
Okay.
They don't like strangers, you know,
Yeah,
at all. You go on
especially
someone's
at
land,
dump, they're protective of that shit.
right? And
Yeah.
like big fucking dog runs up, you know, the dad and the son come out. And I'm like, hey, open windows, like, you know,
Yeah.
we're just looking for the dump. You're not from around here, are you? And I'm like, we're new, you know, got a big
Yeah.
trailer of shit.
Yeah,
But
we don't like
like,
strangers using our dump.
yeah, it's pretty protective. What, you going to
Yeah.
take some of our garbage?
Yeah, what, you gonna leave some of yours?
Yeah.
Well, I'll take it here then.
Well, I've driven it. Yeah, well, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna root through that later. Can you just leave it here?
Yeah. I've driven 3 hours to find your dump to exploit.
Hey,
Strange small town community shit.
it's your garbage, man. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You gotta be protective of that shit. No matter if it's garbage or not, it's mine.
Yeah. Where's the local water tower? That's our water.
Yeah, exactly. Ain't for
Not
you.
from around here. Ain't for you highfalutin city folk.
Yeah, exactly. I've gotten that. I felt that. What else? Hillbillies don't like me. What else are we talking about? No, hillbillies love me.
Hillbillies don't like me.
No,
Different genre, different culture,
get
different
on the level.
Yeah, no. I'll be the first to admit. You know, I get along with native folks lots, but not like the rednecks. You know,
yeah.
I don't know why. It's just two different worlds, I guess. I crack
True.
the same jokes as the guys from the res, but not from the farm.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
It's odd that way. It is what it is. I remember I was tattooing this lady, this indigenous lady, and me and my brother, we'd been saying it a lot, like in the weeks preceding tattooing her, and it just came out. I'm like, holy man. And she just burst out laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, that one slipped. Hey, holy
Yeah.
man.
Hey, you're just appropriating cultures all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. I smudge too. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this I just read about it this morning, got an engagement. There's the goalie for the Canucks in Vancouver recently got his mask painted with a Haida Northwestern Indian Thunderbird. And it's really nice painting. It's like, you know, when you think that the guy got it done to represent the community where he's at. He's in Vancouver. That's the culture. There's lots of Haida art.
Yeah.
But he got it done by, quote unquote, an authentic indigenous artist from Sweden.
Okay.
So you're living in Vancouver where there's Haida artists all up and down the coast,
Yeah.
but you got your mask done by a guy in Sweden who says he does indigenous Northwestern Indian art from Canada and Seattle area, right? So there's been this big uproar. It's like, why didn't you just get one of us to do it from your city? There's plenty of us artists
Yeah.
here in Victoria, Seattle area.
Where's
you
the
know.
player from?
I think he's Canadian.
Okay.
Right? So
Wow.
so he basically retired the mask, right?
Okay.
And it brought up a lot of stuff. My brother posted it talking about cultural appropriation. And like, is that cultural appropriation or is it cultural appreciation? And it's a tough one. where he obviously
Well,
did it because he appreciates the culture, or he's trying to pay homage to the culture.
I don't know the guy. I don't know the artist. I guess like if the guy is like also trying to like claim that he is of that ancestry or some shit like that, like that's a whole different
I
thing.
don't think he was.
But if he's just like, yeah, no, like I'm very skilled in this type of art because it's what I've dedicated myself to. I don't know, man. Like,
well, I specialize in a Japanese style of tattooing,
yeah,
right? And I don't say I'm an authentic Japanese tattooer.
no, for sure,
And
for sure, yeah. No.
and I went to Japan. I met tattooers, and luckily they liked my stuff enough. They gave me a tattoo name, a Japanese tattoo name, which is Horinawa, and I used that only because I was given permission.
Okay.
That's kind of like a little check mark, Hey, I got accepted by the community out there, and they said, "Hey, you're kind of like one of us. Go
Yeah.
do your thing." Right now, if I went to Japan and I'm like, "Yo, I'm Horinawa," and they're like, "Who the fuck are you? Who gave you that name?" Right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that comes up with that. Now, this guy from Sweden saying he does authentic indigenous art, well, maybe he does traditional style. I think that's just a terminology thing,
Yeah.
right? Where,
well, and again, that could even be lost in translation too. Like,
Yeah,
where
possibly.
somebody's like, I'm authentic, and well, no, what I meant to say was traditional.
or I try to do authentic style.
I authentically do a traditional style of this. I
and
don't
in
know.
tattooing, I say I do traditional Japanese style tattooing. Or yeah.
Yeah, I definitely get the argument, especially if you're an artist in that neighborhood and you're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Why would you go halfway around the world for somebody
We're
else?
down the
That's
street.
why I wondered where he was from, because I'm like, if you're home, like if he's Swedish and he was just home and he's like, no, I fucking play hockey in this place and there's a guy who does art of that
Yeah.
area. I'll get him to do it while I'm back home. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying scenarios where I could see this, where it's not just an attempt to like, I want to, because again, I just can't picture someone who's dedicating that much time to be so talented at an art like that it's like just to steal it. You know what I mean? No, I just want to steal the culture and I just want people to think I'm this thing. I think it's.
I'm not sure if
can't
he's. I don't think
their
that's his body of
intention.
work. I think this is just a one job that
Oh, okay.
Well, who knows? Who
I
knows
don't know.
really?
Yeah.
Because I'm not familiar either. So,
Yeah.
but like I do have clients come in with like The Rock, like the actor
Okay,
wrestler
yeah,
Rock.
yeah.
He's got a Polynesian style tattoo. I don't
Sure.
know his culture. Is he Samoan? Maybe.
I think so,
don't know.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he's got real traditional Samoan chest panel, tribal down tattoos. I'm not sure if it's full sleeve or half sleeve, but he's got real traditional Polynesian style Samoan tattoos. Now those tattoos, each line, each little mark is a symbolic thing. So they look at your life, they look at your history, they design this based on a codified symbolism that goes into your tattoo.
Sure.
So if you're experienced with those symbols, you can look at the tattoo and say, oh, you're from this area, you've had this is what your family does, you've been in this many battles traditionally, right? So I get guys coming into the tattoo shop all the time saying, I want a Polynesian tribal piece, chest
Yeah.
panel arm. And I'm like, I'll do neo-traditional tribal on you. It'll look similar, but I'm making up the symbols. It's not going to have any, or I'm making up the designs. It's
Yeah.
not going to have any symbolism. It'll just be a very similar look. It's neo-traditional.
Yeah.
So it's got a traditional look, but it's new.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend, and I'm definitely not going to take those specific images.
Yeah.
Oh, here, you're the most fertile girl in the village now. I don't know what that shit means. Like,
Yeah.
you own 20 heads of cow.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put random symbols on people,
Yeah.
right? So that's, to me, the difference between appreciation and appropriation is like, well, and then I read another article recently, which was a lot of indigenous people really choked at these companies selling those smudge kits. So they've got sweetgrass and sage and cedar and all of this stuff, and they're selling it for profit, like Sephora and Claire's, where
Sure.
it's like, this is our culture.
Yeah, and that's not how they did it. You know what I mean? Yeah, that is absolutely appropriation at that point. That when you take something, and you figure out how to monetize it.
Yeah,
When you're
and
like,
mass
did they have a
produce
trade
it.
system attached to this? Oh no, it was always gifts. It was always
It
just
was.
like this was the intention of it.
And selling it is supposed to muddy it. You
Yeah.
don't sell it. You give it as a gift because
Yeah.
it's a sacred
pretty
thing.
gross.
Like, here's your.
And again,
Can I buy
don't know
holy
how
water?
I don't know how much like that's like intentional to like fucking steal the culture too, or is it just like how do we cash in on these people that have no concept of what the culture actually is, but want to have a part of it?
That's colonialism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right?
capitalism. That's colonialism.
Well, and it's interesting because we've done martial arts together, and in the Filipino martial arts, you kind of have to have a lineage to say, I learned from these people, it came from here, and this is my roots back to the Philippines. Same thing with yoga systems. Hey, which school of yoga are you trained under, and where did your teacher learn from, and like which Where's your lineage? And to do that, you're paying homage to where it came from, right? But if I all of a sudden came up and say, oh, I'm a Filipino martial arts instructor and YouTube showed me, or, I do yoga, but I'm calling it dynamic stretching, and I'm just going to sell it and make a bunch of DVDs and it's not legitimate yoga, that gets shady. And I think that's where the appropriation comes in.
Yeah. Well, and see, and to me, in my mind too, that's like just making shitty art too, right? Like if there's no audience for it, if it's not funny, nobody's laughing, who's buying it, right?
But what if it's good, but it's just totally rip off?
There you go, right? But that's still for somebody. There's still the shitty wish.com version of something is totally fine for someone.
Well, I did Filipino martial arts for 2 years, where I learned it as Natural Spirit International. I'm going to out people, right? So I learned it as Natural Spirit International. I thought it was an American system of stick, knife, hand-to-hand, and like and sword. And well, I'm sitting here in this art. I'm like, why the fuck are we learning machete? Like, literally, we're learning machete techniques in this fucking class. When am I ever going to have a fucking machete? So I did this for 2 years, and I never figured out why we were doing machete. And then I found out, because we had a little bit of a break or whatever, that I'd been learning a rip-off of Filipino martial arts the whole time, which was Kali, and it was supposed to be a sword art.
Yeah.
And the machete was just sword styles. And I was actually learning an indigenous style totally taken and repackaged for an American audience by a white guy from Seattle or just outside Seattle. And everybody was buying into it. Oh, it's American style. Nobody ever used the Filipino names for the techniques, the Filipino names for the art. Nobody ever talked about that. They're like, oh yeah, I made it up, right? And that I did do some arnis, but that's over there. This is my stuff.
This is my system.
Right.
Yeah,
and so when I went and I did the Filipino stuff, they're like, where'd you learn this? And I'm like, oh, I did NSI for a long time. They're like, oh.
Okay. Come with us.
Yeah. You got the basics down. We're gonna fine tune this,
funny.
right?
Just a knowing look of like, oh yeah, okay, I know what you know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it. And then they fine tuned and added on, and like, this is why we do it. This is where it comes from. This is why the sword is shaped the way it's shaped. And I'm like, holy fuck, you guys are filling in all the gaps that this system had. But I was never even told I was learning Filipino martial arts for the first couple of years, and I had to find it out myself. And when I went and found Filipino family to teach me this shit, I'm like, oh, all of the keys, it opened up the art. And I'm like, this is why we've been doing this the whole time. They said,
well, it's like you would have the tools without the art aspect of it, without the storytelling aspect of it, the history,
the roots, the culture, the art, the flow, as opposed to we're doing machete. And I'm like, why the fuck are we learning machete? Oh no, it's a sword art, and we do stick like we use swords because we weren't allowed to use swords when the conquistadors pushed our culture down. We learned stick fighting instead because we weren't allowed to own these weapons. I'm like, holy shit, now I have roots. And like, when I got my certification to instruct, that was sort of like a pat on the back. Now you can go talk about this stuff officially, and you're going to respect that history because of it. It's not just like, okay, thanks, I'm going to go be white guy over here, right? I did do that, but
I did do that anyways. Well, I remember one time wearing a Cali hoodie at work when I was working at the post office, and I ran into a guy who did Sikran.
Yeah.
And he's like, who you train with? And I was like, oh, well, Pat Burke actually teaches me. And he kind of gives me a look. I'm like, he's Caucasian. He's like, oh. And then just walks away. That was it. That's all you needed to know. He's like, no, white guy? Okay, good enough. I don't care. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever.
Well, I trained with those Sikaran guys for a year. My daughter was there for 3 years. And I sat down with the 4-year-olds and the white belts. I was at the very, very end. I'm like, I'm certified to instruct in another art, but I'm a fucking white belt here. And he always said, that's really cool. I really appreciate that you're not dragging that other stuff here. And if you want to train in that, you're going to have to stop doing that stuff. If you ever want to get ranked in my system, you're going to have to stop being that guy over there. I contemplated it for a little while, but I'm me. You know what I mean? I never really needed any belts. I trained with them. I sparred with the black belts, and that was about it.
Well, and how often do you see that in martial arts, too, where people bring stuff from other stuff they've done,
all the time.
It's just constantly like, well, yeah, but I'm going to do my thing from this thing that I brought, and it doesn't really work in the system I come from when you do it like that. I mean, I'll do it your way this time, but like, in my system when we do this, and it's like, okay, fucking whatever.
I just think my stuff's better.
That's a piss poor student, right? When you show up and you're like, well, you just come to fucking, why are you here then if you know so much and you have a better system and all that shit?
Yeah, why don't you just go to your better system?
Learn, ask questions and learn.
Well, and that's just it. Learn what you're there to learn and apply it to what you're doing at home. You don't drag that and try and apply it to what you're learning here.
Yeah, that's
you know?
that's a better way to do it. Right?
Yeah, you develop your own system at home, but when you're here, you're learning this, you know. Well, in English, we have this word for this thing. Why should I learn it in Japanese? Well, because you're here to learn Japanese. Well, this word's better for it in English, so I'm going to go with the English word. But you're here to learn fucking Japanese, you know. Like, yeah, it's weird. Yeah. Anyways, cultural appropriation is an interesting one. Fucking same token, let's say I wanted to learn bonsai, you know, like cutting the trees. Well, no, I don't want to learn it. I'm just going to buy a bunch of the trees, start trimming them, and selling them as authentic Japanese bonsai trees.
Yeah. They tie them, they bend them, they cut them, right?
I watched
That's how
Karate
do
Kid.
it.
Mr. Miyagi fucking did
Wax
it.
on, wax off. Give me the fucking tree money.
Yeah, exactly. You know, these are authentic bonsai. You know, like, no, not really. And then you go to Japan. Well, fuck, I'm a bonsai master.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
We'll karate chop you in the street for that.
Well, right.
You fucking Hoya.
Martial arts a different story. You go to the Philippines. You say I'm a Cali guy. I'm from Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, you want to like friendly?
Yeah, you want to play? Yeah.
Want to play a little?
All
Wham, wham, wham.
stabbed
You're
up,
going home
yeah.
with broken hands, right?
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, we'll try and get a guest on here to get another voice in
One
here.
of these days. Again, weirdness, plague.
Plague.
You
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
You got to kidnap somebody or just claim somebody.
We'll have a
No,
mask.
They're in my, yes, there we go. Incognito.
Do big gas mask episode where they're Darth Vader voices. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be good.
I get a bong hooked up to that.
Well, fuck, that's what we need. You more quiet.
You want me louder?
We'll just lay out some lines here, you know.
Let's really get this party started.
All right. Well, see you in a couple weeks, I guess.
Yeah, it was lovely hanging out with you and you
Yes, as
and
always.
all of you.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.